Chapter 18. Zhou Xiaoyan and Mu Yinyan stood side by side in the office. They had the same outfit and the same coldness, like two blooming snow lotuses. The only difference was that Mu Yinyan gave people a kind of coldness and arrogance, while Zhou Xiaoyan was spotless and clean. When looking at Mu Yinyan, she naturally kept people 1,000 miles away. Once people got close to her, they would be frozen, and the coldness was oppressive. But Zhou Xiaoyan gave people the feeling that she was ashamed of her inferiority, and did not dare to go forward. Even if it was just one step forward, it would taint the clean air around the ferry. After a moment, Mu Yinyan raised her wrist. It was a delicate little watch, bright red, like a drop of blood on her wrist. 7 seconds left, Mu Yinyan said. Bang! The office door was suddenly pushed open, and a girl rushed in. Master, what's the matter? Senior Sister Nian is also here. The girl had short hair and a delicate appearance. Yes, delicate. Her eyes, nose, eyebrows, mouth and ears, every part of her revealed the word delicate. She was like a porcelain carefully polished by a spiritual craftsman, perfect and flawless. Coupled with a small suit and jeans, revealing her snow-white ankles, she looked refreshed and nimble. The girl rushed in with a bunch of car keys hanging on her finger. Master, you really know how to pick the time. I was racing on the road just now, and when I heard your call I had to throw the car away and rush back. How is it? I'm not late, right? The short-haired girl panted, poured herself a glass of water, and drank it up. A drop of water flowed down the corner of her mouth, slid over her delicate collarbone, and fell into the abyss. Can you do something serious? Mu Yinyan was exasperated with her little disciple. What else do you know except playing every day? Racing. You really can do it. You can fly in the sky and chase airplanes, but you still go racing. Do you have nothing better to do? Or do you want to annoy people? The delicate girl wiped her mouth and jumped over. She held Mu Yinyan's arm and began to shake and act coquettishly. Oh, master, I'm just playing around. In a person's life, cultivation is not the only thing. Don't you think so, senior sister? He said to Zhou Xiaoyan. Zhou Xiaoyan said faintly, in my life there is only one thing, cultivation. I don't have much time left. How boring. The short-haired girl threw herself onto the sofa and stretched out her two well-proportioned long legs. Her whole body spread out on the sofa. Ah, this feels so good. Meng Chunyu. Mu Yinyan's face suddenly turned cold. Stand up. Stand properly. I have something to ask you. The delicate girl Meng Chunyu suddenly stood up. Standing perfectly straight, she carefully said, Master, as the saying goes, one can understand the meaning of the music by listening to it. The delicate young girl heard her master's unkind tone, so how could she not know that something big had happened? She no longer dared to laugh. Mu Yinyan's face was as calm as water. The matter of your senior sister breaking through, who did you tell? Hearing this, Meng Chunyu suddenly froze. Speak. Mu Yinyan shouted in a deep voice. I did not tell anyone. Meng Chunyu anxiously said. Such an important matter. How could I casually speak of it? Mu Yinyan's face was calm, and her eyes shone with a sharp cold light. Are you sure? Her voice suddenly became much lower. In the air, an unprecedented sense of oppression suddenly rose. Meng Chunyu's face was calm. She seriously thought about it and finally said word by word, Yes, Chunyu is completely sure. I have never mentioned it to anyone. Mu Yinyan did not relax and continued to pursue. Everything related, any topic. Meng Chunyu took a deep breath. Yes, everything related, any topic. Mu Yinyan faintly said. But this information has already been leaked. You did not say it and I did not say it. Your senior sister would definitely not seek her own death. Then, how did this information get leaked? Meng Chunyu blinked a few times like a spirit. With a sullen face she said, I really do not know how it got leaked. Mu Yinyan's eyes were like lightning. Look into my eyes and speak. Meng Chunyu raised her head, feeling wronged. Looking into Mu Yinyan's eyes, she raised her right hand. Master, I swear to the heavens that it really was not me. Here, I definitely did not leak a single bit of information. If there is even half a lie, the heavens will abandon me. Mu Yinyan's face was calm, as her cold eyes stared at Meng Chunyu's face. Meng Chunyu stared at Mu Yinyan without blinking. After a long time, Mu Yanyan faintly said, "All right. Since it was not you, then forget it. There is no need for such a heavy oath. However, the time and place of your senior sister's breakthrough will need to be rediscussed." "Yes, master." Meng Chanyu immediately recovered her initial liveliness. Like a deer, she jumped over and hugged Zhuo Xiaonian's shoulder. Laughing, she said, "Elder sister Xiaonian and I are like sisters. We are so close that we are almost one person. How could such an important matter be leaked? Master, if this was the ancient era, I would have planned to share a husband with her." Zhuo Xiaonian's cold expression did not change. With some disgust, she removed Meng Chanyu's hand from her shoulder. Snorting, she said, "If the two of us share a husband, I fear that when you grow old, you will still be a virgin." Meng Chanyu became furious. "What about me? Where am I not good? Why am I being looked down upon? Even a training maniac like you can be married off. How am I lacking compared to you?" Zhuo Xiaonian faintly said, "You are small." Meng Chanyu. Zhuo Xiaonian looked up and said, "You are flat." Meng Chanyu. Zhuo Xiaonian smirked and said, "You are dark." Meng Chanyu. Zhuo Xiaonian, "Also you are uglier than me." Meng Chanyu. Zhuo Xiaonian, "Look at yourself. Your entire body is like a stick. Up and down you are perfectly straight. You are truly too tall. If a man were to look for you, it would be better to feel his own chest." This honest and straightforward statement was like a heavy blow to Meng Chanyu's head. The delicate girl could be considered to have been completely defeated. Meng Chanyu retreated a few steps. With a face full of despair, she collapsed on the sofa. Covering her face, she screamed, "Master, I don't want to live anymore. Unless you beat this venomous woman to death." Who would believe it? Who would believe that the so-called beautiful, intelligent, and fairy-like Zhuo Xiaonian, my senior sister, would actually have such a venomous tongue? Mu Yanyan turned around and returned to her seat. She shouted, "Zhuo Xiaonian, that's enough. What nonsense are you spouting? Your junior sister is still young. She still has a chance to develop." "Woo-woo." Meng Chanyu leapt up, covered her face with tears and ran away. Senior sister was like that, master was like that. With nothing left to live for, they could only rely on external things, such as racing. She left. Zhuo Xiaonian said, "It wasn't her." Mu Yanyan said in a low voice, "I just used the cold moon mirror heart technique to observe. Indeed, I did not lie." Zhuo Xiaonian pursed her lips, but did not continue for a long time. "Are you still worried about her?" Mu Yanyan asked. Zhuo Xiaonian faintly said, "It's not that I'm worried, it's just that I don't want any mishaps to occur. If it was because I was not prepared enough, that would be fine, but if it was because—" "It won't happen," Mu Yanyan said. "You can be at ease. When the time comes, I will invite a few good friends over. At the very least, there will be 4 nascent soul protectors. In Phoenix City, there will be absolutely no mishaps." Zhuo Xiaonian said, "Many thanks, master. But master, when the time comes, the breakthrough location." Mu Yanyan said, "Now we are not sure of the breakthrough location. The previous one will be cancelled. We will choose again. The new location is not fixed for the time being. Everything will be done randomly." "Okay. If we are not sure directly, that means we don't even know. Outsiders have no way to know," Mu Yanyan said slowly. After the explanation, Mu Yanyan casually asked, "Are you going home today?" "Yes, master." "If you ask me, you really don't need to go home every day," Mu Yanyan said. "Your cultivation has reached the current peak. The most important thing during this period of time is to calm your mind." "Alas, speaking of calming my mind, only when I am with my parents can I really calm my mind." Zhuo Xiaonian smiled and said, "Master, the news about my family has been completely blocked, right? What level has it been blocked to?" Mu Yanyan said, "When you walked through the thorny road in the past, I had already reported your family information to the A-level secret. This time, when you are about to cross the yin and yang world, I have reported your family information to the S-level secret." Zhuo Xiaonian nodded and said, "Master, if I fail to break through, I hope that this level can last for 60 years. You will not fail. I need your guarantee, master." "Okay, I guarantee it." Zhuo Xiaonian took a few steps and seemed to be about to leave. But when she reached the door, she turned her head and said, Master, there is one more thing. You don't have to help me investigate my real background. Mu Yanyan, why? Swishounian said calmly. Now I am very satisfied. I don't want other news to break my peaceful life now. What's more, if I want to investigate in the future, I can continue. After the breakthrough, I will have more time and money, right? The collection and recommendation tickets are increasing so slowly. Brothers, I really want to have a surprise. Can you please help me? Chapter 19. Mu Yanyan's cold eyes looked at Swishounian's face. Slowly, her eyes became as cold as snow. Xiaonian, you must remember that your lifespan is much longer than ordinary people. Don't touch the barrier of love. Once you touch it, it will not be a good thing for you or your family. Swishounian smiled faintly. Master, don't worry. The people I care about the most are my family. I will not do anything to harm them. Mu Yanyan smiled and waved her hand. Go. Swishounian left. Mu Yanyan looked at the door where Swishounian left. After a long time, her eyes changed and she was in a daze. But back then, I cared about my family like Xiaonian did. What would it be? In life, only when you lose something will you know regret. Only then will you know what you should care about. Only then will you know that back then I didn't care at all. Mu Yanyan sighed softly. I hope Xiaonian can always protect her family. When Mu Yanyan accepted Swishounian as a disciple, she saw this point. At that time, several sects wanted to accept Swishounian as a disciple. They gave her countless benefits, and the only condition was to abandon her family and enter the Tao. But Swishounian refused. She was not willing to leave her parents no matter what. And Mu Yanyan was grateful for this point. For her disciple, she gave up her secluded cultivation and came to Phoenix City to teach Swishounian. What I lost back then, my disciple can't lose it again. There are too few girls who can be so persistent. So I will accept this disciple. I will do everything I can to make sure my disciple does not repeat my mistakes. Swishounian walked out of the door. She saw a sports car parked on the side of the road. In the driver's seat, if it was not Meng Chunyu, then it was that person. Senior sister, Xiaonian. Come, I will give you a ride. Go your way. Meng Chunyu jumped out of the car. Senior sister, I have a bottle of top-quality marrow cleansing pills. Look, get in. Swishounian got in. Okay. Meng Chunyu jumped back into the driver's seat. With a bang, the sports car began to move. Like a cannonball, it shot forward with a whoosh. Stop! Qin Fengyang called out. There were not many people left in the martial arts gym. Now it was Zhou Xiaoduo who was challenging the 29th place. Of the 6 people in front of him, Zhou Xiaoduo fought his way up like a madman. He was covered in cuts and bruises, but he still continued to challenge. He was no longer fighting for a ranking. Instead, he was fighting for his life to advance. After every battle, he would show signs of exhaustion and no longer have the strength to fight. However, after a short rest, he would propose the next challenge. Since I've won, since I'm qualified, of course I'll challenge the position in front of me. Now Zhou Xiaoduo was up against Xie Kuangguan. This was not the first time they had fought. They had fought 3 times, and every time Zhou Xiaoduo was beaten to the ground. His body was so swollen that it was unbearable to look at. But he still wanted to fight. Even Qin Fengyang did not expect this result. This guy who looked like a slick person actually had guts. It was a trend of, as long as there's a breath left, the battle will not stop. But if he continued to fight like this, it was inevitable that his foundation would be damaged. Originally, he wanted to see how far Zhou Xiaoduo could go. So he deliberately observed 2 more rounds. According to the rules, when Zhou Xiaoduo was beaten for the first time, he should have called for a stop. In fact, it was not only Qin Fengyang. None of the students present had expected this guy who called himself a fraud to be so daring. He was simply a man who risked his life. On the other side, Zhou Xiaoduo was secretly feeling good. Just when Long Yuxing finished the bet and paid the $20, and the $20 fell into Zhou Xiaoduo's hand, a cool feeling arose spontaneously. It was as if it fell from the sky, but also as if it came out of nowhere. Zhou Xiaoduo only felt that the mysterious area between his eyebrows was suddenly filled with this cool feeling. A part of the cool feeling was emitted from the mysterious area bit by bit, and entered his meridians. The carefree feeling was indescribable. Not only did he instantly feel 100 times more energetic, but it also made Zhuoxiao's cultivation level improve by a lot. The other part was directly stored in the mysterious area. It was at the bottom. Half a drop. Zhuoxiao could clearly feel that as long as he collected a drop, this drop of spiritual liquid would enter his eye with just a thought. He could use it to see the life and death of a person for the next 3 months. But he clearly saw the faces of 10 people and earned 10 sets of fortune. Why did he only get half a drop of spiritual liquid? Shouldn't he give a drop for each person he saw? Zhuoxiao was pleasantly surprised and depressed at the same time. He was pleasantly surprised that he seemed to have found a way to quickly improve himself. He also vaguely understood how to use this ability. He was depressed because he clearly saw the faces of 10 people. Why did he only get half a drop? What could he do with it? How stingy! However, Zhuoxiao's attitude was very quickly corrected. His so-called fortune-telling this time was really like what Mr. Qin said. He used his own experience and eyesight as a reference. Moreover, it was mostly a joke. It really couldn't be considered fortune-telling. It was already good enough to get half a drop. Since the cool feeling entered his body and spread, Zhuoxiao also clearly felt the changes in his meridians. Therefore, he chose to fight endlessly. This was an opportunity, a chance, a miracle given by God. However, to completely turn this opportunity into strength, he still needed to fight and completely integrate it into himself. Only then could it be considered a complete opportunity. No matter how amazing a treasure was, if he didn't think of a way to digest and absorb it as much as possible after it entered his meridians, it would only be consumed by the body's metabolism and the benefits would be greatly reduced. If he wanted to completely absorb it, fighting, practicing, and moving around was the only way. Everyone saw Zhuoxiao's desperate attitude and thought that it was because he was overly obsessed with winning or losing. They didn't think that this guy was actually digesting the food. Zhuoxiao was fighting. He was knocked down again and again, got up again and again, fought again and again, charged again and again. Even if he was drenched in blood, even if his nose was bruised and his face was swollen, he was still full of fighting spirit. The more he fought, the braver he became. Gradually, even the 4 instructors on the high platform noticed this student who had been defeated time and time again. All 4 of them were moved by this. This kid is not bad. He's full of guts. At the side of the martial arts field, Hu Ruoyan quietly stood under a tree and quietly watched Zhuoxiao fight again and again, getting injured again and again, getting knocked down again and again, but getting up again and again. Her lips were tightly pursed and her eyes were red. It was as if he was watching his stupid child wake up from his stupor one day and desperately chase after his lost youth in order to catch up with him. That kind of urgency, that kind of burning passion. Xiao, you can do it. Hu Ruoyan muttered to herself. Behind her, behind the school building's window, Li Changjiang stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the field, his wife and a certain kid further away. That it was finally over. The way the whole class looked at Zhuoxiao had already undergone a complete change. Everyone, including Qin Fangyang, felt the same way. This kind of effort, this kind of attitude, this kind of fearlessness of death, that it made everyone respect him from the bottom of their hearts. Even Long Yuxing and Wan Lixio, who wanted to teach Zhuoxiao a lesson at the beginning, quietly dispelled the idea. Such a person was destined to become a strong person. On the first day of class transfer, he jumped 6 seats. It wasn't just shocking, it was simply terrifying. Rest and recuperate for an hour. While you're at it, Qin Fangyang called out, Li Chenglong, tell everyone about the history of the continent. Yes. Zhuoxiao was puzzled. He didn't know why Mr. Qin asked this guy to talk about history. Even if Mr. Qin didn't do it himself, he should have asked an outstanding student who ranked higher in the class. Why did he ask someone who ranked last? Well, after an afternoon of hard work, Zhuoxiao had officially left the last place in the class, and Li Chenglong had returned to the bottom. At this time, Long Yuxing quietly came over and explained in a low voice, although Li Chenglong's cultivation is the weakest, his encyclopedic memory is second to none even in the entire second middle school. He also has a photographic memory. He only needs to read once to memorize all the books in the book. If we don't understand something, we will ask him first. It's more convenient to ask him than to ask the teacher. He knows a lot of things that the teacher doesn't know. He's really good. Zhuoxiaoduo's expression changed. This ability was super powerful. Even if his cultivation was not enough, it was a great blessing to have such an ability to know everything. Back in the classroom, Qin Fengyang pressed a switch. In an instant, transparent glass hung down from the doors and windows, sealing the entire classroom. The next moment, a thick milky white mist began to flow out from the four walls, enveloping all the students. This was a type of energy that could be used to replenish the energy used in the previous sparring sessions. It could also be used to effectively heal the students' injuries. Zhuoxiaoduo only felt a comfortable energy surging into his body from the countless pores all over his body. It was really comfortable and delightful. The swelling all over his body quietly disappeared under the cover of this mysterious white mist. This is great. The treatment of the warrior class is really good. I really love it here. Zhuoxiaoduo was secretly delighted. While enjoying himself, he worked hard to circulate his energy and absorb the mist. The feeling was like soaking in a hot spring in winter and drinking a cup of tonic tea. His whole body was warm and comfortable from the inside out. At this time, the little fatty Li Chenglong walked up to the podium leisurely. Zhuoxiaoduo looked over and realized that this brat had changed his clothes not long after entering the classroom. He was wearing a suit and leather shoes and even had a tie on. His hair was also shiny and glossy. Damn, he actually had a slicked-back hairstyle. He looked like a teacher. My classmates, I gave up the May Day holiday to write my story. My wife is already beating me up. Why aren't you giving me a few recommendation tickets? Zhang Ziyan thought to himself. Chapter 20. At this moment, Li Chenglong was standing proudly on the podium. He held a pointer in his hand and tapped it on the podium, looking very stylish. Students. The little fatty began his lesson. He was not nervous at all and was full of calmness. It seemed that this was not his first time doing this. Next is Teacher Li's lesson time. You can enjoy your recovery while listening to my lesson. Remember to pay attention. Yes, Teacher Li does not know how to read people's faces, nor does he have the ability to discern victory or defeat. He also does not know how to boast. I am just an ordinary student who knows a little more than everyone else. As soon as the little fatty finished speaking, a burst of low laughter sounded from the audience. It lasted for a long time. The corner of Zhuoxiaoduo's mouth twitched. This kid is asking for a beating. He is clearly taking revenge on me for knocking him down just now, making fun of me as soon as he got on the podium. He is not magnanimous enough. But you don't know how magnanimous this Master Zhua is. That's for making fun of me. Just you wait. Back to the topic. The little fatty seemed to have changed into a different person. Not only was he calm, but he even seemed to be a little calm. Speaking of history, we must first introduce our continent. The history of our continent of astral souls is so long that it is untraceable. It is blasphemous to simply use years to classify it. Therefore, we can only use the countless clues left behind by our ancestors to deduce what happened in each period. Of course, this is too difficult, too complicated, and too unfathomable for you. But for a genius like me, it is as easy as flipping my hand. The little fatty boasted. Without waiting for the audience to boo, he continued, now, let me explain in detail. Zhuoxiaoduo, don't think that you can glare at me just because you've won today. Although you're older than me and your battle awareness is better than mine, do you believe that I can chase you out with a single sentence right now? Now immediately, smile at me with a flattering expression. The crowd roared with laughter. While Zhuoxiaoduo was dumbfounded, he hurriedly tried his best to put on a fawning expression like a lackey. He nodded and bowed, greetings, Teacher Li. Thank you for your hard work, Teacher Li. You're awesome. Teacher Li is like a heifer as a sword immortal. Li Chenglong nodded his head reservedly. Sit down and pay attention in class. That's a good kid who works hard every day. Teacher Li praised you verbally once. Zhuoxiaoduo, you must not have received any praise for repeating 5 years, right? Do you feel a surge of emotions? The whole class roared with laughter again, rocking back and forth with laughter. Zhuoxiaoduo put on a fake smile and said, yes, I'm overwhelmed with emotions. Teacher Li, there seems to be a ranking competition tomorrow. Li Chenglong shuddered and glared. Start the lecture. Qin Fengyang nodded secretly. Even if it was difficult for Li Chenglong to make further progress in his cultivation in the future, he would definitely be a good teacher. Just the way he opened his mouth to warm up the atmosphere and attract everyone's attention was already extraordinary. Not to mention, he even specially pointed out a person to coordinate with him, complementing each other perfectly. It was truly wonderful. Of course, the harmonious atmosphere was thanks to the cooperation of another person. It was rare that Swixiao Duo, who was older than all the students in the class, did not put on airs and cooperated seamlessly. With the class warming up to such an extent, the following content would definitely be remembered very clearly. It would not be strange to say that it would be unforgettable for the rest of his life. The continent of astral souls is vast. No one knows exactly how big it is. Little Fatty's voice became serious. In ancient times there was a powerful person who we call Godfather. Godfather opened up this space, which is the so-called creation of heaven and earth. Then, he created life out of nothing, and even created everything in the continent of astral souls. This is also the origin of the continent of astral souls. After Godfather created the world, he left this place to pursue the heavenly axiom, leaving behind only a primitive era. However, as to how long this era lasted, it is impossible to know. It belongs to an era without any clues, so I won't go into details here. After the primitive era, it was the legendary prehistoric era. Little Fatty paused and said in a low voice, "Although I can't prove it, but according to my research, I've come to a conclusion. During that period of time, humans must have been struggling to survive and huddled together for warmth. Then, experts appeared, sects appeared, and then various almighties appeared. Just by inferring this point, it is not enough to reach the apex. However, I also inferred that these people should have huddled together to fight against the heavens, against the earth, against the monsters and beasts, against the living environment, and even against the cruel atmosphere. However, in the end there were disputes. It is also because of this that the primitive era evolved into the prehistoric era. There must be a reason behind this, but the reason is still difficult to verify because of the long time. It is limited to speculation. But our time does not allow me to finish these speculations, so I won't say it. Next, let's talk about the prehistoric era. Humans in different regions gave themselves a tribe title and a name. Then they had leaders and powerful people. The most powerful people were called saints. A few saints led their own tribes and occupied a region. They regulated the world, set rules, recuperated, and developed their own sections. For a period of time, although there were disputes on the continent, it was still considered peaceful. It can be considered as the golden age after the primitive era. Next, it was the immortal era. Powerful people from various sects came out in large numbers, and their ambitions grew bigger and bigger. They intended to encroach on other territories and other tribes. Thus they began to fight. One established the heavenly court, the other established the underworld. One managed the people of heaven, the other managed the reincarnation of souls. Yes, there were other organizations that also appeared and fought. After a great war of the century, both sides suffered losses. They licked their wounds and recuperated. Because of this, the immortal era finally came to an end. Li Chenglong said, "Let's be brief here. There must be a lot of gratitude and grudges as well as power struggles and so on. Only that battle was truly too tragic, and it caused the vitality of both sides to be greatly damaged, causing them to be unable to continue." According to ancient records, one of the more reliable theories, Little Fatty pondered and said, "Probably after that war, the 8 great sects did not want to be in the same continent as each other. So, the powerful people in the sects joined forces and forcefully separated the continent. With their own bases as the origin, they drifted away in the starry sky and disappeared." However, there is another theory. An expert forcefully suppressed all the sections. However, that expert did not have much time left after the continuous battles. Fearing that there would be more trouble after his death, that expert used up his remaining lifespan to erupt with a power that surpassed his own limits. He split the continent and drove out the 8 sects that were fighting endlessly. They were allowed to wander in the starry sky and were not allowed to return. Everyone listened attentively. Swixiao Duo was even more shocked. He more or less knew this knowledge, but it was far from being as systematic as what Little Fatty said. This is probably the biggest turning point in the history of the entire continent of astral souls. Little Fatty sighed and continued, with the end of the era of immortals, what came next was the era of dynasties, the era of low martial arts for cultivators. Because of the war between immortals and immortals, the people were in a terrible situation. Countless forces and sects were reduced to ashes, and powerful people were killed or injured. After the 8 great sects left, there were almost no systematic cultivation legacies left in the mortal world. Without a higher mental cultivation method, the martial artists turned their cultivation to the direction of physical training. However, even if this cultivation was practiced to the extreme, they could at most fight against 10,000 people. But if they did not cultivate their spirit, it would be difficult for them to live forever. Their lifespan would at most be a few hundred years. During this period, some immortals and immortals' legacies appeared from time to time. These people often boasted of being immortals and left many traces in history. But in the eyes of today's people, it was just a joke. During this period of feudal dynasties, the strength of cultivators was unprecedentedly low. But as the dynasties changed, illusions rose and disappeared, and those that were separated for a long time must be united, and those that were united for a long time must be divided. This provided a stage for countless heroes to show themselves. Little Fatty Li Chenglong's eyes were a little distant, and he said softly, after the era of dynasties, it was the era of technology that was closer to ours. I think everyone is familiar with the so-called technology, the mobile phones, telephones, computers, and even planes and trains in our hands. These can be called the unique products of the era of technology. After thousands of years of development, the wisdom of human beings became higher and higher. Because of the extinction of martial arts legacies, more and more people began to find other ways. Therefore, there were fighting methods other than cultivation, and there were also all kinds of machines that could replace the power of powerful martial artists. The so-called moving mountains and filling seas, and transmitting sound from 1,000 miles away, were all trivial matters. However, this is an era that is harmful to human beings. We call the era of technology an era of abandonment, an era of decadence. Why? Naturally, there are great reasons for this. Looking at the history of human civilization, the era of technology can be said to be the era with the most lazy people. Countless talented people did not cultivate, and wasted their time. They were dull, and they were like the dust of the sky. They abandoned the most fundamental things. The countless skills of the era of technology came into being, causing the majority of human beings to abandon martial arts, and turn to study the power of technology. But this kind of behavior was neglecting the essentials, and it caused the human body to become weaker and weaker, and their lifespan gradually shortened. But with the continuous development of technology, there were airplanes, cannons, and even more powerful weapons. The average martial artist could not block a shot from a gun held by an ordinary person, and they could not dodge the absolute speed of the gun. This caused the number of martial artists to wither. Occasionally, there were cultivators, but they were only used to strengthen the body, and martial arts withered day by day. Later on in the era of technology, it gradually evolved into a situation where martial arts were eliminated, and martial arts gradually became a legend. It was also in the era of technology, but for the earlier era of immortals and gods, and the prehistoric era, it turned from a legend to a myth, and it became more and more unverifiable, untrustworthy, and untraceable. No one would believe that a man could soar in the sky with his own strength. No one would believe that a man could move mountains and fill seas. And even more so, no one would believe that a man could live forever. Everything about the high-level cultivators has been overturned. The power of technology allowed a man to travel around the world without expending any effort. He could also take down a martial artist with a single shot, and he would not have to worry about being attacked. Then what was the use of cultivation? In that era, humans had long forgotten that the enemy of mankind was never human beings, but the heavens, the earth, the firmament, the universe, and the laws of all things. So now we call the era of technology the era of martial arts destruction. At this point, Little Fatty took a few deep breaths, and then said dejectedly, then the continuous development of the era of technology caused the ecological resources of the continent to be depleted bit by bit, until they were finally exhausted. Because of the countless technological wastes that destroyed the environment, the continent could not bear the burden. In the end, it finally reached the era of martial arts destruction. When technology was at its peak, the entire continent was filled with skyscrapers and cities. At that time, there was no such thing as the so-called suburbs, and the spiritual energy in the continent of astral souls became thinner and thinner. Cultivation was like a fantasy. But at that time, meteors suddenly appeared one day, and countless planets in the universe exploded. Countless meteors crashed into the continent of astral souls day and night. A fragment of a meteor the size of a fist, falling from the boundless sky, could instantly destroy a village. Not to mention a meteor the size of a small mountain, falling from the sky like a mountain. That meteor shower continued for 300 years, a whole 300 years. If it was an ordinary meteor, with the development of technology at that time, it would not have been difficult to stop it. But with the power of the heavens and earth, which encompassed the entire continent, it was completely useless. And the ordinary people of the continent did not have the strength or physique to resist. A tremor was enough to kill millions of people in an instant. In the end, the entire continent, which had a population of tens of billions, was wiped out. The continent withered, and life was difficult to find. This was the period of destruction. This was the bitter fruit of hundreds of years of the technological era, and everyone in the continent had to taste it together. Li Chenglong took a deep breath. Finally, the heavens took pity on us. They could not bear to see the complete extinction of human civilization, and left us with the opportunity to rise again. The era of spiritual energy revival followed. After the period of destruction, human habitation was so rare that it was terrifying. Deserted areas could be seen everywhere. And the meteor shower not only wiped out the entire continent's population, but it also dealt a devastating blow to the environment and economy. It became a difficult task for humans to survive. Fortunately, at this time, people realized that the continent's environment was very different from before. The originally thin spiritual energy became denser. It turned out that the meteors that fell from the universe were all wrapped in abundant spiritual energy. Many of them even contained star spirit stones, which constantly emitted spiritual energy. They were miraculous objects that aided cultivators. And those star spirit stones could be seen everywhere. They could be found all over the continent, in all the oceans and lakes. After all, they had been pouring out for 300 years. It would be strange if there were fewer of them. Yes, these star spirit stones are what we now call the astral soul stone. At this point, Zhuo Duo nodded slowly. So this was the origin of the astral soul stone. After the great cataclysm, the surviving humans rose from the ruins and resumed production and life. Some people continue to study science and technology, but there are also people who, by chance, discover that the spirit chi emitted by the star spirit stone can be used to nourish the body. There are also a few martial arts inheritors who use it to cultivate martial arts. However, the utilization of the star spirit stones was not very high at that time. Even if they were occasionally used to cultivate martial arts, it was not very effective due to the decline of martial arts inheritances. After hundreds of years, human society has once again returned to the trajectory of the era of science and technology. The newly developed technology can already resist the bombardment of meteorites that have yet to stop. Another earth-shattering change is imminent. Of the 8 continents that had been separated in the early years, 2 suddenly returned from space and connected with the astral soul's continent. This huge change caused the entire continent to shake, the seas to churn, giant waves to rise to the sky, the entire continent to quake, and countless mountains to the bottom of the sea in an instant. Human civilization suffered a great blow once again. As for the 2 sects that returned, they were 2 great opposing sects back then. One of them felt that the existing humans had occupied their original territory, and wanted to kill all humans in the astral soul's continent to restore their former glory. To put it bluntly, they were just jealous of this spirit realm that had been baptized by countless meteors. The humans used high-tech weapons to resist, but they found that the so-called guns were useless in front of these people. The so-called weapons of mass destruction were destroyed before they could be used. A mocking smile appeared on little Fatty's face. When humans see the enemy walking over in a long robe while thousands of people on our side are shooting madly with machine guns and cannons, the enemy doesn't even move a muscle. When the enemy casually slaughters tens of thousands of people, when the so-called advanced weapons that can destroy heaven and earth can't hurt the enemy at all. When we see the enemy sitting on top of the mushroom cloud with a mocking smile on his face. We finally understand that the path that humans have taken these years has been wrong. Very wrong. It was also at that time that the humans finally realized that there was no power more reliable than the supreme power that they themselves possessed. No matter how advanced technology is, when the person involved is just a weak ant, there is no chance of luck against the strong. It turns out that a person's strength can really fight against natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, and even tsunamis. Father gave us a body and wisdom that could be cultivated to the extreme, but we did not cherish it at all. Instead, we used it to reap without sowing, and used it to take advantage of opportunities. The little fatty sighed sadly. This mistake has been wrong for so many years. Fortunately, there were two factions that returned together. One faction showed the ambition to completely destroy the native humans as soon as they descended, and the other faction may not have had the same intention at first. However, the other faction's overall strength was not as good as the previous faction, so they chose to join forces with the humans, passed down the martial arts seed, and started a long battle of life and death with the other faction. Stop! When the little fatty said this, Qin Fangyang, who had been standing at the side, suddenly interrupted and said indifferently, "Cut off the next part. With your current cultivation, you are not qualified to know more." The little fatty nodded. Yes, this is the budding period of our current era. Yes, or rather, the second budding period. Next is the period we are in now, the period of high martial arts. We received the cultivation inheritance from one of the factions that returned, and after many years of development, human experts emerged one after another, and gradually began to walk the path of the strong. Martial arts and technology are equal, or rather, the path of cultivation is supported by technology. For example, the white mist that was cast on your body just now to heal your injuries and recover your strength is based on the energy of the astral soul's stone, supplemented by mechanical adjustments, and controlled to suit everyone's current state. Li Chenglong's face was serious. Partners, do you know now that we are still on the edge of survival? The strength of the enemy is not something we can understand at our current level. Countless strong people are now guarding the border day and night, or on the peak of the snow mountain, or on the island, or in the waves, or... The little fatty pointed above his head. Above the ninth heaven. Perhaps one day we will wake up and this city we are in will no longer exist. Or one day we will sleep and in our dreams, everything will be over. This is our current era of high martial arts. There are incomparably strong enemies outside, unimaginably strong forces, or they have already infiltrated our side. Or they are in our homes. Furthermore, the meteors in the starry sky universe are still falling. Of the 8 continents that were exiled, only 2 have returned. The others may not have perished in the universe, and they may still return at any time. When that time comes, it will still be a world-ending catastrophe. Our city is only protected by strong people, which diverts the falling meteors and causes them to fall into the wasteland. That is why we are safe and sound. As the little fatty said this, he glanced at Qin Fangyang. Qin Fangyang nodded slightly. Li Chenglong stood up straight. Teacher Li will stop here for this lesson. Students, do you have any questions? Zuoxiaoduo, do you understand? Zuoxiaoduo raised his right hand. Teacher Li, I understand. Li Chenglong nodded with satisfaction. If you understand, it means that everyone understands. I am very gratified and happy. It can be confirmed that the general framework of this book will start from this chapter. Because it is all introductions to the settings, there are no separate chapters. One chapter is enough. Moreover, I am not sure if I have missed anything. Perhaps this chapter will be revised in the future. Then I am so tired. Big chapter, please recommend it. Chapter 21. Zuoxiaoduo's forehead was filled with black lines, and the classroom was filled with laughter. Teacher Li has one last thing to say. Students, work hard to become stronger. Li Chenglong said seriously, we need to protect others. We can't always be under the protection of others. The heavens have given us the talent for cultivation. We can't let the heavens down. The school and the government have given us a comfortable cultivation environment. We can't let the government and the school down. Teacher Qin is diligent and hardworking for us. He's noble and doesn't ask for anything in return. We can't let Teacher Qin down. Qin Fangyang laughed and scolded, get down. Okay. The little fatty was very obedient. He bent down and rolled down from the podium like a rubber ball. Swishaoduo listened to every word of the little fatty's ancient lesson. After the lesson was over, his heart was filled with a heavy feeling. These things were not accessible to ordinary people, because it was useless to know. Most ordinary people only knew about the beauty of this world. Once they came into contact with the cruel truth of this world, it would only cause panic. It would do more harm than good. Of course, with the increasing popularity of martial artists, many ordinary people would know more or less. However, what they knew would not be too detailed. The path of a martial artist is long and burdensome. Swishaoduo sighed in his heart. Suddenly, a sense of responsibility and mission arose spontaneously. He felt that he was about to shoulder the heavy responsibility of saving the world. Swishaoduo was a little worried. If I were to be the emperor, I'm not ready yet. Qin Fengyang stood on the podium and summarized, well, there's one thing that needs to be clear. Li Chenglong said that the era of science and technology is abandoned. This point is a bit biased. The so-called science and technology is actually the choice and research that humans have made to save themselves and facilitate their lives when they have lost the direction of cultivation. After all, ordinary people are the majority in any era. Of course, this direction will continue and develop even further. But now that the cultivation system has returned, the role of science and technology is even greater. It allows martial artists to free up their hands to do more things and have more time to cultivate. This is actually a good thing. I can't deny it completely. For example, the time spent traversing mountains can be used to train, rest, think, and research on planes and trains. Of course, that's if the plane isn't attacked. Haha. The whole class burst into laughter. School was over. Many students packed their things and prepared to go home. There were also some who stayed in the classroom unhurriedly because they lived on campus. Swishaoduo, who was also in no hurry, simply tidied himself up and looked at himself in the mirror. There are no more wounds on my face. Now, he could prepare to go home with a peace of mind. Swishaoduo, stay here for a while. Qin Fengyang asked Swishaoduo to stay. Swishaoduo, what is your ambition in life? Or should I say your goal in life? Swishaoduo was dumbfounded by Qin Fengyang's question. Ambition? Target? What was that? Swishaoduo had a blank look on his face. He asked humbly, Teacher Qin, what are these aspirations and goals? Or should I say, what? Qin Fengyang had been teaching for many years. This was a rare chance for him to have a heart-to-heart talk with a student in recent years. The main reason was that he saw Swishaoduo's outstanding performance today. It was rare for him to have a sudden impulse to give a few words of advice. He didn't expect to get such a result. He was inexplicably surprised. Don't tell me. You don't have any long-term plans? Swishaoduo smiled proudly. Teacher Qin, what are you saying? I've always been a person who takes one step at a time. I never look at things that are 2 steps away from me. After hearing this, Qin Fengyang immediately had black lines on his forehead. You short-sighted thing, what are you so proud of? Who gave you the courage to be proud? You don't even have a target, yet you act like you're a wise man. Can you be any more shameless? Qin Fengyang felt that there was no way for him to understand how strange Swishaoduo's brain circuit was. You fought so hard in the ranking in the afternoon. Qin Fengyang felt that Swishaoduo could still be saved, so he asked, there must be a reason, right? Swishaoduo had no intention of hiding this. He confided in Qin Fengyang sincerely, Teacher Qin, you see, I'm the oldest in our class, right? Qin Fengyang nodded blankly. And I'm also the tallest, right? And I'm also the most handsome, right? So how can I endure such humiliation? Swishaoduo was filled with righteous indignation. He stood with his hands behind his back. How can I let a bunch of brats ride on my head? It's only reasonable that I ride on their heads. It's only reasonable that I ride on their heads. Swishaoduo's ambition was higher than the sky. He said energetically, since I'm the boss, then I'll be the boss. The boss should have the status and grandeur of a boss. One day, I'll let everyone in this class. Stop. After listening to Swishaoduo's honesty, Qin Fengyang had a splitting headache. He couldn't communicate with him at all. What the hell was this? Mr. Qin felt a little stifled by the fact that he had winked at a blind man, so he pinched his brows and decided to end the heart-to-heart chat. He waved his hand impatiently. Go on, go on. School's over. Don't forget to pay the school fees tomorrow. Or rather, you can have your parents pay the school fees. Tuition fees. Zhuo was shocked. What tuition fees? Isn't it compulsory education? Qin Fengyang slammed the table and finally couldn't hold back his anger. Bullshit. The energy you use for cultivation and recovery. Did it fall from the sky? Isn't that the school's teaching resources? Why would they need money? Can't the school buy it? Why would they give it to you for free? Who do you think you are? Qin Fengyang's calm state of mind was shattered by Zhuo. For the first time in his life, he had the urge to hit a student. Oh, Zhuo was unhappy. Thinking that he had to take out a large sum of money again, he suddenly felt pain all over his body. For a moment it was difficult to breathe. He swallowed his saliva and said, Teacher Qin, how much is the tuition fee? Qin Fengyang lowered his head and looked at the table. He said sullenly, 100,000 star dollars per semester. In addition, 50 low-grade astral soul stones will be added. Zhuo jumped up as if he had been pricked by a needle. He shrieked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. 100,000. So much. Eat me. Is this an academy or a scam shop? Qin Fengyang was speechless. Zhuo was filled with righteous indignation. I've calculated carefully. According to the cultivation expenses of each samurai, even if it's 1 year. Bang! Qin Fengyang couldn't stand it anymore and sent Zhuo out with a kick. If you don't hand it over tomorrow, you're not allowed to go to class. The door slammed shut with a bang. I really don't want to be entangled with this brat anymore. I can see that this brat is someone who would rather die than be taken advantage of. It's fine if you ask him to take money, but asking him to hand it over is like asking for his life. His parents aren't businessmen, right? Qin Fengyang was indignant. How did they raise such a thing? Scam. It's too scam. On the way home, Zhuo was still indignant and muttering to himself. It's too scam. What kind of world is this? It's like eating people whole without spitting out their bones. Zhuo chattered non-stop. A year in the martial disciple class only costs 5,000 star dollars, but a semester in the warrior class costs 100,000. And he also wanted to collect 50 low-grade star soul stones. Why don't you go rob a bank? Is this still a school? Is this still a school that cultivates talents? Even robbers aren't as ruthless as you guys. Sai, that's not right. Sister Nian, I've been going to school and cultivating since I was young. Why haven't I spent a single cent? And I often pick up good things. Why don't I get such treatment? Zhuo was indignant. My family just spent 1 million, where would I get another 100,000? Zhuo was distressed. My personal savings. Everything outside the house only adds up to 7,020. Where do I get money? After thinking for a while, Zhuo stomped his feet and gritted his teeth. He looked up at the sky and sighed. A genius like me actually has to pay tuition. Shouldn't I be given a scholarship? It's too dark, too dark. He turned into a street. There was already a big street in front of him. Although it was already dusk, there were still many people on the street. A girl with a pink bag was fiddling with her phone while leaning against a lamppost. She seemed to be lost in thought, and a smile appeared on her face from time to time. Among the hurried footsteps of the people, it seemed particularly quiet. She seemed to be chatting with someone? Zhuo instinctively commented, not tall enough, too flat, too dark skin and acne. Hair too short, not straight and split. Neck not too slender. Legs too thick and but average. I can't see clearly inside. But her boyfriend looks okay. He's tall and has a handsome face. He's quite considerate. He's so close to her, and I can tell he's a good man. Boyfriend? No. That's a fucking thief. It's slowly getting hot. I'm looking forward to it now, the hotter the better. Heat means summer is coming. Summer is something I've been looking forward to for a long time, because the doctor said that if you want to drink, you'll need at least summer. So please recommend me. Chapter 22. Zhuo was shocked. The young man approached the girl quietly and skillfully took out a blade. He silently cut open the small pink bag and gently took it out. Wallet. Then, he turned around and walked towards Duo as if nothing had happened. He clearly saw Duo and knew that Duo had seen all his actions. However, he was fearless and unscrupulous as he walked over casually. Behind him, the girl with the phone continued to smile foolishly. She did not notice anything. They were about to pass by each other. Duo instinctively wanted to go forward and stop him. Thief, I'm born with a sense of justice. How can I tolerate thieves? This is a good opportunity for me to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and rob the rich to help the poor. Just as he was about to step forward, his eyes suddenly lit up. Fortune-telling. This is a customer. The opportunity to earn Providence points is here. Seeing that Duo did not do anything, the young man became more courageous. He snorted and was about to walk past. Smack! Duo reached out and grabbed the young man's collar. He looked at the young man's face seriously and worriedly, constantly scrutinizing him. His eyes swept over and over. The young man said, What? What are you doing? Why is this guy so strong? Is he a martial artist? Duo let out a long sigh. Good. Almighty. Benefactor, I don't think your face is very good. The young man was stunned and said angrily, Let go. What nonsense are you talking about? Duo had a compassionate look on his face. Benefactor, your appearance is not good. You have a black aura surrounding you and you have bad luck. I think you're going to have a bloody disaster today. The young man. Duo said sincerely, Come, it's an opportunity to meet. I'll help you with your fortune and help you get rid of this evil. Of course it'll be good luck. I don't need a lot. I just need Benefactor to donate 1,000 yuan of karma money. The young man struggled a few times but failed to break free. His face gradually became fierce. He looked at Duo and threatened in a low voice, Are you going to let go or not? Duo frowned. Benefactor, you only need $1,000 to get rid of a bloody disaster. Are you not willing to part with your good fortune? You're the one who's going to have a bloody disaster. Are you fucking sick? The young man was infuriated. He had just succeeded and was secretly delighted. This kind of little girl who was holding a phone in her hand was the easiest to steal. As long as she was looking at the phone and chatting, it was easy to steal anything. Unexpectedly, while he was happy with his success, he encountered such a hothead who was full of nonsense. Was he a lunatic? What are you trying to do? I read your fortune because of a fortuitous encounter, immeasurable deity. Duo bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind. His eyes were merciful as he said, You're going to have a bloody disaster. Evil spirits are approaching and urgently need to be resolved. The young man was so angry that he laughed. I think you're the one who's going to have a bloody disaster, right? One thought of the spirited mountain, the other thought of the underworld. There's no door to fortune or disaster, only man can summon it. Duo slowly let go of his hand. Since we're not fated to be together, Benefactor, you're on your own. You go. Then he recited slowly, Life is full of divergent paths. Don't let down those who are fated to meet each other. This is the will of heaven. The sea of bitterness cannot be crossed. What a pity, what a pity. Immeasurable deity. The young man snorted angrily. In the end, he didn't want to be entangled and quickly left. The young man turned a corner and came to a remote path. He was about to pick up some loot when he felt a darkness in front of him. Someone was standing in front of him. He looked up and saw that it was the lunatic just now. The young man was shocked. You. What are you trying to do? Duo said seriously, My fortune-telling has never been wrong. You're really going to have a bloody disaster, and it's about to come true. The young man said, You fucking. Before he could curse, there was a loud bang. A fist the size of a bowl had smashed into his face like an iron hammer. The young man felt his vision go black and a sharp pain followed. With a crisp crack, the bridge of his nose was broken. He saw stars and staggered back. As he retreated, he felt his head being hit by a sledgehammer. Before he could struggle, his hair was grabbed by the other party. His body couldn't help but run forward. His face was raised and slammed into the wall. Puff, 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 puff. It was a series of beatings. It was like a wedding night banging against the wall for a long time. After a while, the young man was covered in blood. He was thrown on the ground like a broken gunny sack, twitching and dying. His eyes were so swollen that he could barely see anything, but he could still vaguely see a person squatting in front of him. The person said very sorrowfully, "I told you that you would have a bloody calamity, and that a fiend was about to befall you. Now, do you believe me?" The young man only felt that his courage had flown away. This guy was obviously a lunatic. This series of beatings was simply going to kill him. How was this a simple bloody disaster? Hearing this faint voice, he couldn't help but tremble. "Do you believe me?" Zuoxiaoduo was a little impatient. "Are you doubting my fortune-telling ability? Let me tell you, I'm a direct descendant of the Linen divination sect." Yes. The young man tried to make himself speak clearly. He endured the dizziness and pain and nodded repeatedly. "It's good that you believe me," Zuoxiaoduo said kindly. "It's fate that brings us together. How can I miss it? I beat you up just now, but the main purpose is to help you block the bloody disaster. Pay up 1,000 yuan. If you don't want to give up money, the bloody disaster will be hard to end." The young man wanted to curse, but he didn't dare. He took out the pink wallet that he had just received with trembling hands and was about to zip it. Zuoxiaoduo snatched it from him and said earnestly, "Benefactor, this good fortune will only count if you use your own money. If you encounter this kind of thing in the future, remember, don't use other people's money. That's bad karma." The young man was stunned for a moment. "But I don't have money." Zuoxiaoduo's benevolent smile gradually turned into a ferocious one. "If you don't have good fortune, the bloody disaster will be inevitable. You have to know that human life is predestined." Do you have it or not?" Yes. The young man was so regretful that his intestines turned green. He shouldn't have done business today. He met such a lunatic, and a lunatic whose martial arts were off the charts. He reached into his pocket with trembling hands and took out a wallet. He counted 1,000 yuan and handed it over with difficulty. "Master, this is divination gold." Zuoxiaoduo reached out and took it. He glanced at it and found that there was a thick stack in the wallet. "Damn, it's so thick. Immeasurable deity, I've saved you from a disaster. Why don't you even thank me?" Zuoxiaoduo asked in dissatisfaction. Thank you." The young man almost cried. He was beaten up, spent 1,000 yuan, and now he had to say thank you. Our fate has come to this. This is the karma of fate. It's a little unorthodox to say thank you. Zuoxiaoduo spoke politely, but he frowned again. "But this is such a big thing. You just want to say thank you and it's over?" The young man blinked his swollen eyes and quickly came to his senses. He hurriedly took out another 1,000 yuan from his wallet. "Thank you for your help, master. This is a small token of my appreciation." Zuoxiaoduo took the money and said earnestly, "I didn't want to reveal any more secrets, but seeing that you and I are fated, I have to remind you again. You're quite unlucky today. I've saved you from the bloody disaster, but the accumulated bad karma of the past is too much. I'm afraid your life will be in danger." The young man was completely dumbfounded. "I've already spent 2,000 yuan on the bloody disaster just now. Now there's another danger to my life. How much danger to my life? Is this kid going to kill me?" It was already dusk. The young man carefully looked at Zuoxiaoduo's face. He felt that this face was suddenly filled with murderous intent, ferocious and terrifying. "It's dark." Zuoxiaoduo sighed benevolently. "You have to know the immeasurable deity. The night is dark and the wind is strong. Murder and arson. Master. The young man's teeth chattered. This danger to my life, how much money do I need to save it?" Zuoxiaoduo heaved a long sigh. "This depends on your sincerity. If you're not sincere, I'm afraid. You can't avoid it. This is the will of heaven. Helping you now is revealing the secrets of heaven. I'm going against heaven's will, and I've been tainted with great karma. It's only because you and I are fated to meet. Do you know that I'll be punished by heaven for revealing the secrets of heaven?" Zuoxiaoduo glanced at the young man's wallet and said earnestly, "Benefactor, money is easy to get, but life is hard to get. Once you die, however much money you have, will belong to others. The young man was dumbfounded. Do you mean that if I don't give it to you, you'll kill me and it'll still be yours? Is that what you mean? Is that so? Master, I'm just a thief. I only stole a few wallets. My life won't be in danger, right? Zhuoxiaoduo was displeased. This has nothing to do with your profession, the immeasurable deity. Benefactor, it seems that the danger to your life is difficult to resolve. I can't do anything about it. Zhuoxiaoduo pondered for a moment and suddenly shook his neck. Suddenly, his cervical vertebrae made cracking sounds. He said faintly, "There's no door to misfortune. It's up to man. Man's life is so fragile. My Buddha is merciful. I'm afraid I'll have to break the precepts today." Sob, sob, sob. The young man finally cried out, "Master, I only have 8,000 left. That's all I have. Take it all, let me go." Sob, sob. With snot and tears running down his face, the young man cried in grief. "What do you mean by that?" Zhuoxiaoduo was displeased. "What do you mean by let you go? You should say, Master, please show me the way." The immeasurable deity. I wasn't wrong. Benefactor, you and I are indeed fated to meet today. Sometimes I feel that my writing is a little long-winded, but I've tried my best to change this problem after writing this chapter. I'll revise the first few chapters. I'll remove the long-winded parts and strengthen some things. Where else can I find such a responsible and handsome author? Give me your recommendation tickets. Chapter 23. Master, please sob. Show me the way. The young man really wanted to die. All right, seeing how sincere you are and how you're willing to give up your wealth, and considering that we're fated, I'll go against the heavens and consume a lot of my cultivation. Forget it. Zhuoxiaoduo took the money sanctimoniously. You just need to keep going east. Keep going and don't look back. The danger to your life can be resolved. Thank you for your guidance, Master. Well, you can't look back tonight. You and I are fated today. I'll help you this time because it's fate. Tomorrow at this time, if you've survived the danger, you must come here and settle the karma with me. Yes, I'll follow Master's instructions. Zhuoxiaoduo took out a pen and paper and wrote something flamboyantly. Come sign this. Then, he folded it and put it in the young man's pocket. Poor child, go. The young man was like a mangy dog with a broken spine, rolling and crawling all the way to the east. As for settling the karma tomorrow and so on, that I won't come even if you beat me to death. If I were to meet this lunatic again, I might as well just bang my head against the wall and die. It's too scary. If you want to rob money, just say it's money. Why do you have to talk about fate and fortune-telling? He touched his pocket and actually received an invoice. Received 10,000 gold coins, and it was separated by case and case. Damn it. This is to prevent me from calling the police. The young man held the simple invoice and wanted to cry but had no tears. It even had his signature. I'm a thief. Do you have to prevent me from calling the police? Your knowledge of the law is too rich. What kind of lunatic is this? The young man finally burst into tears. I didn't lie to him. His life is really in danger. However, from now on, keep going east and you can really avoid it. It depends on whether you're obedient. After Zhuoxiaoduo beat the young man up, he suddenly realized that the young man's forehead was overflowing with murderous intent. His life was really in danger, and it was already full. If I say there's a danger to your life, there really is. It wasn't just now. Zhuoxiaoduo's heart skipped a beat. However, since he had already given them instructions, it was up to fate whether they would listen or not. Head east and don't look back. But if he didn't listen, it would be over. However, there was no movement between his eyebrows. What about luck points? What about that cool feeling? I've already finished reading, calculating, settling, and collecting the money. Why isn't there anything? Zhuoxiaoduo was a little angry again. Zhuoxiaoduo walked over in a relaxed manner. Half a day had passed, but the girl was still looking at her phone and giggling. Zhuoxiaoduo was shocked. Who dropped this wallet? The girl was stunned. She looked down and saw her purse lying at her feet. When he turned around, the person who had spoken just now had already disappeared. The girl held her purse in her hand and looked in the direction where Zhuoxiaoduo had left. Her eyes were deep and she didn't move for a long time. After a long time, the young girl gritted her teeth and cursed in a low voice. Where did the shit stirrer come from? He's pissing me off. She rubbed her purse with her small hands and the expression on her face was distorted. He's pissing me off. What era is it now? There are still such nosy idiots. I was just about to reach it. The girl's face turned green. She was extremely annoyed. There were only 50 meters left until he reached home. Duo lightened his footsteps and moved forward stealthily, sticking close to the corner of the wall. He had a lot of money on him now. He had to hide it as soon as possible. If Dad and Mom found out about it, confiscating it was just a small matter. They would definitely get to the bottom of it. Then they would definitely beat him up. Then they would have to write a letter of guarantee and swear that they would never offend him again. In short, it was terrifying just thinking about it. However, he had achieved a breakthrough this time. His parents would be very happy. When he went back and told them, imagining his parents' surprised and disbelieving expressions, Duo felt an inexplicable sense of happiness overflowing in his heart. I, Duo, can also make my parents happy and proud for once. Duo walked as he fantasized. His face was full of joy. He walked stealthily for about 7 to 8 meters. Suddenly, he felt his vision turn black and the world spin. He walked as if he had entered a space-time tunnel. Duo immediately screamed, Xiaonian, I hate you. After a moment, his vision turned bright again. He flew into the living room from his window as if he was riding the clouds. Duo landed on the ground again. He stood on the ground and swayed for a moment before regaining his senses. Then, he flew into a rage and said, Xiaonian, are you itching for a beating? How dare you make fun of the great Xiao Duo? This sentence was earth-shattering and earth-shattering. Xiao Duo, who had always been the little bottom at home, spoke so loudly today. He even called himself Master Xiao Duo. Not only was this unprecedented, but it was also unbelievable. Chonglu, who was drinking tea and reading the newspaper, suddenly raised his head and looked at his son as if he was looking at a revolutionary soldier. Wu Yuding, who was cooking in the kitchen, suddenly stuck her head out and asked in shock, who was the one who spoke loudly just now? Why does he look like Xiao Duo? But Xiao Duo doesn't have the guts. Xiaonian was also stunned by this shout. She maintained her posture with one hand outstretched and her other hand in the air like an eagle's claw. She was stunned on the spot and did not move for a long time. After a moment, Xiaonian's neck slowly turned in an almost stiff posture. She stared at Xiao Duo with her beautiful eyes. With some doubts and disbelief, she muttered, "What happened to my dog today? Did he go crazy?" Xiao Duo continued to be aggressive and said arrogantly, "Xiaonian, I'm seriously warning you. If you dare to call me dog again, I'll definitely beat you up in the future. I'll beat you up so badly that you won't dare to show your face in front of people or on the streets." Huh. Xiaonian slowly circled Xiao Duo twice, looking from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. Her face was full of sudden realization. She muttered, "The sun must have risen in the wrong direction today." Xiao Duo steadied himself on the table and slapped it arrogantly. "Dad! Mom! Nian cat!" The family of 3 was completely shocked. What's wrong with this kid? This was too arrogant. Instead, he was floating so wildly that he didn't even look like one. Not only did he dare to slap the table, he even dared to call her Nian cat. Duodu Nian cat. These 2 names were given by Chonglu and Wu Yuding when Xiao Duo and Xiaonian were young. Their original intention was to call out the names for fun, but the 2 of them didn't know any better when they were young, so they agreed as soon as they were called. Zhuanglu and his wife were convulsing with joy, so they stopped calling out the names. However, as Xiaonian slowly grew up and became a girl, the name Nian cat had long been retired from the stage of history. Now only Wu Yuding occasionally called it that. Zhuanglu, the father, had almost forgotten this name. However, Xiaoduo's Duodu name was still used. Even though Xiao Duo protested many times, he was defeated by the absolute disadvantage of 3-1 votes. Not only was it used, but it was also used in many different ways. Now that Xiao Duo suddenly said the name Nian cat, the 3 of them felt that the sun must have risen in the wrong direction today. Go Dan! Xiaonian, who was called Nian cat, finally regained her senses and roared, "What did you say?" Zhuoxiaoduo's legs shamefully turned to jelly, and his momentum plummeted. He forcefully suppressed the panic and helplessness in his heart, and braced himself to ignore him. He tried his best to turn the tide and said loudly, "I have good news to announce. There's also bad news to announce. Dad, Mom, Sister, Nian Nian." Facing Zhuoxiaonian's fierce gaze, Zhuoxiaoduo wisely changed the Nian Nian cat that he was about to blurt out to Sister Nian Nian. Zhuozhonglu frowned with a suspicious look on his face. "You have good news? Don't tell me. You finally found money?" Wu Yuding looked expectant. "I'm afraid I've been praised by the teacher. It seems like this is the first time in 6 years." Zhuoxiaonian smirked and waited for someone to continue. Zhuoxiaoduo took a deep breath and tried to straighten his chest to make himself look tall and strong. He put his hands behind his back and said in a reserved manner, "The good news I want to announce is, I've broken through to martial warrior today. I've also completed the quenching of my right leg. My right leg is now as hard as iron. I've officially entered the martial warrior class. What's more, in the first class I ranked from 36th all the way to 30th place. It's a meteoric rise. Who else can do it but me? Like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, sweeping away everything before them." Speaking up to this point, someone deliberately pretended to sigh and said, "I originally wanted to continue to charge forward, but sometimes a person's strength is limited. I really don't have the energy. I didn't win that round with the 29th place. It's not my fault, it's not my fault." Hearing this explosive news, Zhuochonglu was stunned. Wu Yuding was also stunned. Zhuoxiaoduo finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He laughed and rushed up to Wu Yuding and hugged her. He spun her around. "Mom, are you happy? Are you happy? Ha ha ha. I've broken through. I'm not useless anymore. I'm a genius. I can cultivate. I can cultivate." Wu Yuding was stunned for a long time. Finally, she murmured, "My son has broken through. My son is not useless anymore. He can cultivate." She slowly stroked her son's hair. Her eyes suddenly became very complicated. When she turned to look at Zhuochonglu, she saw that Zhuochonglu's eyes had also become unusually complicated. There was joy and relief, but more than that, there was worry and disappointment. Yes, he was not useless anymore. He could cultivate. He had become a martial warrior. The path of cultivation had opened. This was a good thing, however, this also meant that he had to face risks. The dangers in the future would come one after another. The road ahead was unpredictable. It would not be as peaceful as the ordinary people. If he couldn't cultivate, he could live a peaceful life in the city. It might be a good thing for him to live a carefree life. This was because once one became a martial artist with success in cultivation, they had to go out. He had to go out and face enemies and dangers that ordinary people couldn't face, and even couldn't imagine. There was a saying in the astral souls, an ordinary person can easily live to 70 years old. However, out of 10 martial artists, at most 2 can live to the age of 80. Above the martial master level, before the Jinyuan level, was the most dangerous path for a martial warrior. Martial warriors and martial disciples were not dangerous because they didn't have to go out on missions. However, once they became martial masters, everything was different. The risks they faced were thousands of times more than ordinary people. This was an extremely cruel reality. Zhuochonglu's eyes gradually became deep. When I was writing this chapter, I suddenly remembered the day when I left home as a soldier. There were many things I wanted to write. Some were written, but I deleted them. Everyone can experience it for themselves. Sigh. Parents in the world have a poor heart. Please recommend me and comfort me when I'm suddenly sad. Chapter 24. Zhuoxiaoduo finally vented the excitement in his heart, but he found that his parents were not as happy as he thought they would be. His attitude should be described as thoughtful, troubled, and even a little fearful. Zhuoxiaoduo knew something was wrong. He couldn't help but put away his smile and ask carefully, "Dad, Mom, are you not happy?" Ha 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 ha. Zhuozhonglu let out a long laugh, beaming from ear to ear, "Happy, too happy. Dad was stunned by you just now. Ha ha ha, my son can finally cultivate. From now on, who dares to call my son a loser? Ha ha ha." Mr. Zhua, who had a smug look on his face, secretly winked at Wu Yuding. Wu Yuding also put on a smile and quickly wiped her eyes, saying, "Yes, I'm so happy. Doggy's cultivation is a great thing for our family. Doggy's dad, oh, our Xiao Duo will be a cultivator from now on. Dad, go buy some good wine and food, let's celebrate tonight." Zhuo Zhonglu laughed heartily and said, that's right. We must celebrate this." He stood up and was about to open the door. Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly felt a little sour in his heart. He couldn't help but think of the disappointment when Zhuo Xiaonian suddenly changed the way she called him, even though she was very dissatisfied with the name Cat in her mind, so that was it. He felt that his parents were being polite to him. All of a sudden he couldn't help murmuring, "Let's call him Doggy. I'm not used to the sudden change." Ha ha ha. The three of them laughed together. Zhuo Xiaoduo then added with a cheeky smile, "If it's possible to slowly change it. Give me a period of time to adapt to it, that's the best." "That's because you're dreaming," Wu Yuding and Zhuo Xiaonian said at the same time. Zhuo Xiaonian made threatening gestures, saying, "You're doggy, forever doggy, always doggy egg." Zhuo Xiaoduo assumed the appearance of a ferocious dog and growled. Zhuo Chonglu laughed and opened the door to buy some food and wine. Wu Yuding pushed Zhuo Xiaoduo out of her embrace and said gently, "Go and play with your sister. I'll see what else is in the fridge and cook a few dishes. It's not good to just eat the food bought outside. How about I fry a salted fish for you later?" Sure. Zhuo Xiaoduo was excited. Then Zhuo Xiaonian pulled him over. "Doggy, come here. Let me ask you, how did you break through? You really surprised me." As she was pulled away by Zhuo Xiaonian, her voice became softer and softer. Finally, with the sound of the door closing, she could no longer hear her voice. Zhuo Xiaonian's voice was filled with excitement. She could barely contain her excitement. Just by listening to her, one could feel that this girl was completely overjoyed. Wu Yuding stopped moving the kitchen knife in her hand and fell into a daze. After a long while, her nostrils were sore and her eyes were red. How could he be able to cultivate? The road ahead would be so difficult. The sky slowly darkened. She didn't know when Zhuo Zhonglu had returned. He carried a few vegetables into the kitchen and quietly stood behind his wife. He put his hand on his wife's weak shoulder and slowly held her in his arms. He said softly, "Don't worry. Don't forget that little Nianji is watching over you. Don't worry too much." He said softly, "Actually, little Nianji is more worried than we are." Wu Yuding nodded silently. She seemed to want to say something, but she didn't. Yes, it was good to have her sister watching over her. But it was better to see her safe and sound with her own eyes. "I regret it," Wu Yuding said softly. "It's okay," Zhuo Chonglu said after a moment of silence. Then he said in a relaxed tone, "Hurry up and cook. They're going to want to eat later." "Okay." The sound of kitchen knife chopping could be heard. Zhuo Chonglu walked out calmly and set the table. It was no different from usual, but also very different. A table of sumptuous dishes was served. The family of four sat in a circle. They were all happy and harmonious. "Today is a big day." Zhuo Chonglu smiled. "You two can drink some too." Zhuo Xiaonian's beautiful eyes and face glowed. She nodded repeatedly. Zhuo Xiaoduo rubbed his hands and smiled. "Dad, I'm already a powerhouse. I'm afraid these 2 jars of wine aren't enough." Wu Yuding snorted. "Not enough? Last year during the New Year, who was the one who drank only 2 glasses and occupied the toilet for half the night? Who was it? My memory is really bad." Zhuo Xiaoduo blushed. "Mom, I'm a samurai now." "A samurai? Samurai? That's amazing, so high and mighty." Wu Yuding pursed her lips. "Why do I remember that Nian Cat sitting next to you is already a master? What level of peerless powerhouse is a samurai?" Zhuo Xiaoduo pouted and pretended to be angry. "Let's eat," Zhuo Chonglu ordered as if to smooth things over. Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was still pretending just now, reached out and grabbed a chicken thigh. He stuffed it into his mouth at lightning speed. His cheeks suddenly puffed up and he chewed in big mouthfuls. "Delicious, delicious." The family couldn't help but laugh. "Oh right, doggy." Wu Yuding remembered something and said, "Didn't you say there was bad news? What is it?" Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly remembered something sad and said, "Sigh, don't mention it. It's just that the school I went to is really too shady. I have to pay for the samurai class a lot of money, tuition fees." He looked melancholy. It's really shady. Zhuo Chonglu, Wu Yuding, and Zhuo Xiaonian were speechless. Wasn't it normal to pay tuition fees? How was it shady? It was really shady. Just tell me how much it is. Zhuo Chonglu took a sip of wine. We have money. Anything that can be solved with money is not a problem in our family. Just say it. 100,000. 100,000. And there's an additional 50 pieces of low-grade astral soul's jade. Tell me, do you think it's shady? Zhuo Xiaoduo said bitterly. So much money. And it's only for one semester. Do you think it's shady? Zhuo Xiaoduo sighed. Shady? It's quite normal. Zhuo Chonglu said nonchalantly. His understatement made Zhuo Xiaoduo's jaw drop. It even felt unreal. He thought that his father would be shocked for a while, feel the pinch and feel embarrassed for a while, but in the end, 100,000 for tuition fees isn't too much. A samurai training for a few months should be about this amount. Zhuo Chonglu casually took out a card and said lightly, there's 80,000 in here. Then he reached into his pocket. I'll give you another 20,000 in cash. Dad! Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian spoke at the same time. Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding turned to look at them. You first. You first. The siblings spoke at the same time. Finally, Zhuo Xiaonian bit her lip and said bravely, I have some money here. I'll pay for the dog's tuition fees. Zhuo Chonglu narrowed his eyes. You have money? How much money do you have? It was obvious that Zhuo Xiaonian regretted her words. Now that she was being questioned, she suddenly became timid and said timidly, about 200,000, I think. Wu Yuding immediately put down her chopsticks and turned to look at her. Where did you get it? Zhuo Xiaonian stammered this. My master gave it to me. Ahem, yes, my master gave it to me. Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding stared at Zhuo Xiaonian without saying a word for a long time. My master really gave it to me. Zhuo Xiaonian mustered up her courage. Both of them still stared at her quietly. After a long time, Zhuo Xiaonian was defeated and said dejectedly, I carried out a few tasks. Still no one spoke. The atmosphere was unprecedentedly heavy. Zhuo Xiaonian spoke faster and faster. I didn't mean to hide it from you. But I'm a grown-up now, right? I should do something for this family. Mom, you said just now that I'm a grandmaster. If I don't do anything, I'll just be a decoration. The tasks I took were very simple. Very simple and easy. She emphasized on the ease of the tasks. Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding still did not speak. Zhuo Xiaonian's eyes were red. It's really simple. Zhuo Chonglu turned his head and looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo expressionlessly. What did you want to say just now? Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly stammered, I can help you. Secret stash? Wu Yuding narrowed her eyes and sighed. What can you do with that little money of yours, my silly dog? Zhuo Xiaoduo was not convinced. I have more than 10,000. Huh? What? Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding grunted at the same time. Even Zhuo Xiaonian turned her head and looked at them in surprise. Wu Yuding frowned and said, You dug out all the money in the book, the Chronicles of the Continent. There was only 5,000 in total. Where did you get 10,000? Zhuo Xiaonian nodded desperately and tried to steer the topic to Zhuo Xiaoduo. That's right, Mom. I secretly counted it the day before yesterday. It was exactly 5,000, no more, no less. Now that you said 10,000, there must be something wrong. Mom, you have to investigate carefully. Zhuo Xiaoduo was dumbfounded. His eyes widened in an instant. If it were not for his eye sockets, his eyes might have popped out. His mouth was wide open, causing the drumstick in his mouth to fall out with a clatter. Fortunately, his cultivation base had improved greatly, and his reaction was fast enough. He lowered his head and sucked the drumstick into his mouth, swallowing it in large mouthfuls. What fell to the ground was only a piece of dry and smooth bone. After chewing unconsciously, he asked in shock, My money. My secret stash. How do you know so much about it? Zhuo Xiaonian giggled. She laughed so hard that she trembled. Wu Yuding smiled faintly and said, I don't dare to speak about other things, but I'm quite confident about my secret stash. After saying that, she glanced at Shuchonglu. She seemed to be hinting at something. Shuchonglu immediately sat up straight. The muscles at the corner of his eyes trembled slightly. He shouted sternly, "Zhuxiao, tell me the truth. Where did you get the 10,000? This question greatly damaged his gentle and elegant temperament. It was a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. It was obvious that he wanted to divert attention. Zhuxiao's eyes kept rolling. He stammered, "Today. I earned. Cough cough. I earned. Not bad, not bad." Shuchonglu asked, "How did you earn it? What did you do?" Zhuxiao looked around to find a way out. He stammered this. "I earned it. From fortune-telling." Shuchonglu said, "Ha ha ha ha. You earned it from fortune-telling?" Then he reached out to unbuckle his belt. "First thing, regarding this book, I have a plan. I want to write more about the daily life of a family. I'll post it first and let everyone have a look. Leave me a comment. If you don't like it, it's not too late to change it. I'm actually quite good at writing about family warmth. Previously, the readers liked the story to be compact and bitter, so I wrote it that way. But for this book, I want to test it out. Family is actually indispensable. But it depends on the opinions of the leaders. Second thing, I accidentally wrote too much today. So tomorrow at midnight, I'll try to surpass the ranking. Everyone give me confidence and courage. Amen. Please recommend me tomorrow. The chapter at midnight, but you can read it tomorrow. It's not important content. Family warmth and daily life can be revealed in advance. Someone is going to be beaten. Third thing, there are 900 reviews now. Can it exceed 1,000 reviews tomorrow? Let's go to the reviews and comments section. Chapter 25. I really know how to read fortunes. Zhuxiao had a strong will to live. Dad. My dear Dad. You don't know this, but your son has received an extraordinary inheritance. I can see through a person's fate. I really can. Shuchonglu said calmly, "Tell me, how much did you earn?" Zhuxiao trembled. 1,000. 1,000. Your little stash only has 5,000 in total. You earned 1,000 today, but why did you say that you earned more than 10,000? Do you think that your dad is stupid? That I can be easily fooled by you? Shuchonglu roared like a tiger roaring in the forest. His momentum was shocking. His eyes stared as if he wanted to swallow the kid in front of him. Zhuxiao's mind went blank. Facing the old man's stare, he instinctively cowered like a little quail in the cold wind. 10,000. 10,000. Shuchonglu sneered. I've believed in everything in my life, but I don't believe in liars. I've believed in everything in my life, but I don't believe in fortune-telling. I can believe in the whole world, but I can't believe in you, Zhuxiao. Go to hell, you coward. With a whoosh, the entire belt was pulled out. Zhuxiao screamed and hugged his head with both hands. His body curled into a ball out of habit, but his butt was exposed. He reflexively got into a posture to be beaten. He screamed miserably, "Be gentle." Ahem. Wu Yuding coughed and said lightly, "Let's eat first. Today's banquet is a celebration. What are you doing? Let's talk after the meal." Shuchonglu thought for a while and slowly put away the belt. He nodded and said, "That's right. Let's eat first. We'll talk after the meal." The banquet resumed. Zhuxiao and Zhuxiaonian sat side by side. However, the two of them looked unsatisfied. They looked at each other from time to time and saw the regret in each other's eyes. She shouldn't have pitied her father for working so hard to support the family. She wanted to help, but in the end, she sold herself. For a moment, the siblings were both vexed and regretful. Zhuxiao, in particular, secretly scolded himself for being a pig. He clearly knew that the money he had earned should not be exposed. Once it was exposed, he would be in big trouble. Why didn't he keep his mouth shut? The nature of the meal had changed. It was no longer a celebratory feast, but a last meal. The only thing he didn't know was whether it would be a men's singles match or a mixed doubles match. It was more likely to be a mixed doubles match. He didn't dare to think any further. It was too terrifying. Wu Yuding poured a glass of wine for Zhuchonglu and said, "Nian, you have 200,000 yuan now. The family is indeed quite tight during this period of time. It's good that you take some money out to supplement the family, but don't take it all out. Girls need to keep some money with them to deal with emergencies. Swixiaonian, who was flattered, immediately sat up straight and said flatteringly, Mom, I have 360,000 yuan in total. I'll leave 350,000 for Dad. And I'll keep 10,000 for myself. Oh, so it's not 200,000 yuan, it's 360,000. Wu Yuding nodded and said, Then you can take out 300,000 yuan. You're an adult now. When girls go out, you have to treat yourself better. How can you not have money? Swixiaonian nodded as if she had been granted amnesty. Yes, Mom. Okay, Mom. I'll take it out now, Mom. Then she took out her card, tapped on her phone, and transferred the money to her father. Only then did she feel a little safer. Looking at Swixiaoduo's pitiful eyes for help, Swixiaonian gave him a look that said, Good luck to you. Then she focused on eating. Her heart gradually calmed down, and her face cleared up. Even if Dad and Mom were still angry, the dog was in front of them. They could beat him first. Xiaoduo's mistake seemed to be more serious. Hee. I spent 300,000 yuan. This beating I should pay for it, right? And Xiaoduo. Wu Yuding picked up the wine pot and poured a glass of wine for her son. She said with a smile, Xiaoduo is now a samurai. Congratulations. Mom won't limit you from drinking today. Drink with your dad. Swixiaoduo's hand that was holding the wine glass was trembling. His face was pale and he stammered, Mom, I really earned it by looking at the face. I didn't steal or rob. Well, Mom believes you. You're my son. Why wouldn't I believe you? Wu Yuding immediately said, Where's the money you earned? Take it out and let me see. I don't believe you earned more than 10,000 yuan. That's more than 10,000 yuan. Swixiaoduo hurriedly got up and ran into his room with his tail between his legs. He opened the hollowed-out journal and took it out as if he was presenting a treasure. He said, Mom, look. This is 5,000 yuan. And this is 12,000 yuan. Wu Yuding. It's not more than 10,000 yuan. This is at least 20,000 yuan. Swixiaonian coughed repeatedly. She turned around and kept signaling Swixiaoduo with her eyes. Don't betray me. Don't betray me. Swixiaoduo hesitated for a moment. Under his mother's gaze, he only hesitated for 2 seconds before betraying Swixiaonian. Yes, I asked you for money one day, and you didn't give it to me. Sister Nian Nian gave me 10,000 yuan. Then I bought a piece of jade and spent 8,000 yuan. Swixiaonian's expression darkened again. She bit her lower lip and looked at the traitor with resentment. Wu Yuding glanced at Swixiaonian meaningfully and said, Oh, I see. It's fine. She picked up the money in her hand and counted it. 17,020 yuan? What's up with this 20 yuan? Swixiaoduo gulped. It's a small amount. Small change. He didn't dare to say that he earned it from fortune-telling anymore. Wu Yuding said, You don't need so much money for school. Your sister gave you 10,000 yuan and you actually spent 8,000 yuan. You are a little too extravagant. Swixiaoduo looked at the money in his mother's hand in despair. The corners of his eyes twitched and his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. So I'll keep it for you. Wu Yuding naturally placed the money in her small purse. She thought for a moment and said, But you're also a warrior. It's not right for you to not have some pocket money when you go to school. Here, take this 20 yuan change. Spend it wisely. Swixiaoduo took the 20 yuan in a daze. He felt a surge of emotion in his heart. She left 60,000 yuan for sister. She left 20 yuan for me. This ratio. But it's okay. Sister Nian's money is my money, isn't it? If I can escape a beating, it's worth it. He tried to comfort his heart that was about to bleed from the pain. He turned his grief into appetite and began to eat and drink again. Sure enough, Sui Zhonglu and Wu Yuding didn't pursue the matter any further. The whole family was joyous and harmonious. They toasted each other and finished the meal in a harmonious atmosphere. Swixiaonian and Swixiaoduo's uneasy heart slowly calmed down. Swixiaoduo was even thinking about handing over the 12,000 yuan ill-gotten gains. He had planned to do so anyway. But was it possible for him to get back the 5,000 yuan he originally had? If it was possible, how should he tell his mother? Swixiaoduo thought hard and considered the words carefully. The money was originally saved by him over the years. They had painstakingly saved up money and then turned it all into new banknotes with serial numbers. Everyone in the family knew how hard it had been to go through all of this. So, the possibility of him getting it back was not small. While thinking, he picked up the wine glass and drank. Before he knew it, he had drunk a lot. They had truly eaten and drunk to their heart's content. The 5,000, Wu Yuding said. It's going to be returned to me. Zhuoxiaoduo's spirit was shaken, his eyes sparkling. I'll keep it for you first. It depends on your performance. If you do well, I'll return it to you, Wu Yuding said. Okay. Mom really loves me. Zhuoxiaoduo flattered her without hesitation. His heart calmed down a lot. Yes, there was still hope. There was still a lot of hope. Well, isn't this salted fish your favorite? Wu Yuding said, don't just eat one side. Turn this salted fish over. Zhuoxiaoduo hurriedly did as he was told. But he felt that there was something wrong with this sentence. Zhuoxiaonian had already burst out laughing. At this moment, Zhuochanglu was already a little tipsy. He was smiling happily. Zhuoxiaonian wasn't as optimistic as Zhuoxiaoduo. The intuition of a high-level martial artist made Zhuoxiaonian vaguely feel that the crisis seemed to be still faintly existing, brewing, and rising. That meant that this place wasn't safe. Seeing that they had finally finished eating, Zhuoxiaonian put down her chopsticks and stood up. Her pretty face was serious. Dad, Mom, I still have to practice. I'll go first. Don't be in a hurry. Zhuochanglu raised his eyelids. You're a girl. You're already so old. Do you only know how to eat? Don't you know how to clean the table after eating? Zhuoxiaonian's face was gentle and pleasant. Yes, Dad. I'll clean it now. Mom, put it down. I'll wash it. Zhuoxiaoduo hurriedly helped. The two cleaned up the dishes together while exchanging glances. What should we do? Quickly think of a way to escape. Escape to where? Anywhere is fine. But the biggest problem now is whether or not we can slip away. I don't know what to do. Me too. Finally, the two siblings cleaned up the house. After a long while, they came to the living room and were about to say that they wanted to go back to their room. But before they could say anything, Zhuochanglu spoke first. I'll leave Zhuoxiaonian to you. You're a big girl now. You two can deal with it yourselves. Zhuochanglu said to Wu Yuding, I'll deal with Samurai Xiaoduo. Okay. Wu Yuding waved the thick ferrule in her hand. She reached out and pulled a bench over in the living room. With a cold face, she said to Zhuoxiaonian, lie on it. Monday. Rank up. Looking for recommendation tickets to rank up. The next chapter was noon. So sleepy. Chapter 26. Zhuoxiaonian's face was pale. She instinctively covered her butt and wanted to act coquettishly. Mom. Her voice was soft and pitiful. Lie down. Wu Yuding was unmoved. Her expression was cold, and her gaze did not change. Zhuoxiaonian's eyes reddened, but she did not dare to resist. She obediently lay down on the bench and sobbed. Mom, be gentle. Slap. The ferrule fell with the sound of wind and landed on her perky butt. Zhuoxiaonian screamed and gritted her teeth. She tried her best to suppress her body's self-defense instincts. With her spiritual power at the master level, a little counterattack could cause serious injury to an ordinary person. As he thought about it, he felt that it was not safe and dispersed all of his spiritual energy. This way he really did not have to worry about hurting Wu Yuding. If the bamboo board hit his flesh again, Zhuoxiaonian would feel no different from a normal person. Slap, slap, slap. Wu Yuding kept waving the ferrule. Zhuoxiaoduo trembled at the side. He felt sorry for her and said in a trembling voice, Mom, that's enough. Sister Nian Nian looks like she's in pain. Zhuochanglu smiled faintly. What a touching sibling relationship. It's a pity that your mom and I are determined to be the bad guys today. Before he finished speaking, he held one end of the belt in each hand and pulled it in the middle. Suddenly there was a crisp sound. Zhuoxiaoduo trembled all over. Zhuochanglu hooked the other bench with his leather shoe and stared coldly at Zhuoxiaoduo. Zhuoxiaoduo did not hesitate. He did not even hesitate for a second. He directly lay down on the bench and raised his butt. He was in a standard posture for a beating. The next moment, slap, slap, slap. A series of sounds rang out like hailstones falling from the sky. Zhuoxiaoduo screamed like a pig being slaughtered. You even know how to read fortunes. You even know how to read faces. How are you so capable? You even learned how to deceive people. Swindler. You're a warrior now? You're really amazing. Da. After a long time, the slapping sounds on both sides stopped. Swishaoduo was moaning weakly while Zhuxiaonian was sobbing softly. Do you know what you did wrong? Wu Yuding asked Zhuxiaonian. I know. Why did I hit you? I shouldn't have forced myself to go on a mission. That means you really know. Do you still dare to do it in the future? I wouldn't dare. Zhuxiaonian was also a coward. It was no wonder that Wu Yuding was angry. Normally, breaking through to the inner core realm was the most important thing in a warrior's life. At this point, they would nourish their dantian every day. They would never go out to take on a mission. Even their daily sparring sessions would be suspended. Large sects or universities would always forbid their disciples who had reached this critical stage to go out. They would not allow anything to affect their emotions or their cultivation. Once there was any accident or injury, the path to becoming a grandmaster would be cut off. It would affect their entire life. This critical juncture was the most crucial one. Even the slightest mishap would be a lifelong regret. Zhuxiaonian actually took on a mission at this time. It would be strange if Wu Yuding was not mad. As for this beating, Zhuxiaonian knew that she deserved it. She could not blame anyone. She deserved it. On the other side, do you know why you were beaten? I only know half of it. Zhuchanglu frowned. I think I was wrong, but I wasn't completely wrong. After being beaten, Zhuxiaoduo's mind was clear. You used fortune-telling and fortune-telling to cheat 10,000 yuan. Don't you deserve to be beaten? You came back and lied to me. Don't you deserve to be beaten? Zhuchanglu glared. There was a reason. There really was a reason. Zhuxiaoduo really felt that he was wronged. He even felt that his cowardice was unbelievable. That's right. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I feel guilty? Not only was I beaten, but my money was also confiscated. Who can I reason with? I acted bravely. I caught the thief. I'm a role model for the citizens. I actually got beaten up. And before I got beaten up, I panicked and cowardly. No, there's something wrong with my mentality. I'm really wronged. Zhuxiaonian dug her own grave, but I didn't dot thinking of this. Zhuxiaoduo hurriedly explained everything in detail. I did do a good thing. I acted bravely for a just cause. Zhuxiaoduo didn't notice. While he was talking, Zhuchanglu and Wu Yuding kept looking at each other. He also didn't notice that when he said pink girl, pink purse, Zhuxiaonian, who was being beaten, suddenly stopped screaming. Her face slowly changed. Zhuxiaonian seemed to be deep in thought. Her eyes became deep. If that's the case, then it's pardonable. Zhuchanglu pondered and nodded. He suddenly felt that he had really hit the wrong person. That's right. Acting bravely for a just cause to catch a thief. It's natural to trick the thief into giving some money. It's good enough that you didn't force the thief to find an ATM nearby and force him to withdraw money, seeing that his father admitted it. Zhuxiaoduo suddenly felt so wrong that he was about to cry. That's how it is. I acted bravely for a just cause, but I still got beaten up. Slap. Another belt. But this time the belt was much lighter. Zhuxiaoduo suddenly froze. He was stunned and looked at his father in disbelief. Zhuchanglu said slowly, I'm your father. Even if I hit the wrong person, are you going to hit me back? Zhuxiaoduo felt so wrong that he didn't dare to say anything. I wouldn't dare. Then it's fine. Zhuchanglu said matter-of-factly, it's fine. Zhuxiaoduo was speechless. Did I get beaten up for nothing? With a slap, a small bag appeared in front of him. There are 50 pieces of low-grade jade of astral souls in here. There's 100,000 in the card. Take it to pay your school fees tomorrow. Also, here are 10 pieces of medium-grade jade of astral souls. Take it and use it for your daily cultivation. It should be enough for you to use for a month. But just to be safe, come back to me for another 10 pieces in 20 days. The more resources you have, the better. Don't be stingy. Zhuxiaoduo was shocked. 10 pieces of medium-grade jade of astral souls. Although the Zhou family had their own astral soul shop, Zhuxiaoduo knew the price of a medium-grade jade of astral souls. One piece was at least tens of thousands, and the amount was very small. It was hard to get one. It was already good enough to get one medium-grade jade of astral souls out of a few hundred pieces. His father was so generous today. He wasn't even this generous to Sister Nian before. Zhuochanglu said calmly, "I'll say it again. I'm the head of the family when it comes to money. I'll take care of it. The two of you only need to study hard and cultivate well. For now, this family doesn't need you two to support it. Wait until I'm too naive to make a living, then you two can decide for yourselves. Got it? Well, let's return his 5,000 yuan stash to him. This little miser saved up 5,000 yuan for 10 years and didn't spend a single cent. Cough, cough. Give it to him." Zhuochanglu instructed Wu Yuding, turned around, and quickly went into the study. But Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly felt very happy, because he felt that his father had left in a sorry state. It was as if he had left in defeat. And he must feel that he had wronged me and hit me wrongly, but he couldn't bring himself to apologize to his son. Dad, you're leaving in such a sorry state. Also, the 5,000 yuan that you lost and got back was a super victory. Although someone's butt was still burning with pain. His mentality was as if he had won a battle. It was the first time in his life that he saw his father show such an expression in front of him. Only one word could describe it. If it happened 10 or 100 times, it wouldn't be too much. It's awesome to become a martial warrior. Zhuo Xiaoduo was complacent and beamed with joy. He actually felt that his butt didn't hurt as much. Both the brother and sister were beaten up, but now Zhuo Xiaoduo looked at Zhuo Xiaonian and felt very superior. "I was misunderstood, but sister, you really did it. The two of us are fundamentally different. Fundamentally different, you know? Ha, ha, ha. You deserve it. You deserve it." While Zhuo Xiaoduo was secretly happy, he also felt a little gloating. After all, there were only a few times in his life that he could take advantage of his sister. "Dad, you're biased." Zhuo Xiaonian ignored the pain in her butt and raised her head indignantly. "When I was in school, you didn't even give me a stone of astral souls. That's not fair." Zhuochanglu's voice floated out from the study. Do you still need me to give you anything?" Then he stopped talking. Zhuo Xiaonian pouted but didn't say anything. Zhuochanglu was right. Zhuo Xiaonian's outstanding talent was not only waived all the tuition fees, but the school also gave out a quota of jade of astral souls, and the quality was far beyond what ordinary people could afford. Under such circumstances, Zhuochanglu really didn't need to prepare anything. Besides, if he really wanted to prepare something, it seemed that he really couldn't afford it. Wu Yuding went into Zhuochanglu's study, and the door was closed immediately. Zhuo Xiaonian stood up from the bench and covered her butt. She pouted and looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo and said angrily, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and help me into the room. It hurts so much." Zhuo Xiaoduo was exercising to relieve the pain. He said angrily, "Mom and Dad are already in the room. Why are you still pretending? You just need to exercise and you'll be fine. Don't you know that you're too fake? Besides, do you think Mom would bear to hit you so hard? Pretentious. Disgusting." Zhuo Xiaonian was ashamed and angry. She didn't care about pretending anymore and grabbed Zhuo Xiaoduo. "How dare you talk dirty to me? Come with me." In a flash, they disappeared from the living room. In the study, Wu Yuding's face was filled with worry. Zhuochanglu also looked unprecedentedly serious. "Since you've already entered Dao, you have to make other plans. You have to prepare more resources." Zhuochanglu sighed and said, "Originally I was lazy, undisciplined, and happy to be free and unfettered. Who would have thought that a dog would suddenly break through and become a cultivator? This is forcing me to work hard to earn money. It's so hard to be happy." Zhuochanglu was very melancholy. "That there's something I need everyone's help with. On the first day we opened the book, we had more than 50,000 collections. Until now, we still have more than 50,000 collections. We don't have enough exposure. I can only rely on you guys to help me promote and recommend. 50,000 collections, less than 2,000 copies. More than 90% of them are keeping books. We don't have enough exposure and don't have enough copies. This kind of helplessness makes me very embarrassed. Sigh. It seems that I need some tips to get on the list. Everyone just give me 1 or 2 yuan. Otherwise it'll be a little ugly. Don't forget to vote for me." Chapter 27. Wu Yuding sighed. You're the head of the family. If you don't work hard, who will? No matter what, you have to pave a smoother path for Doggy. Nyan didn't need us to put in so much effort, but Doggy can't escape this time. Zhuochanglu nodded slowly. Don't worry. Then, the husband and wife began to discuss in a low voice for a long time. Bear me. Zhuo Xiaoduo experienced the feeling of being a high-altitude person again 30 or 40 times. He shot up into the sky like a rocket and then fell like a meteorite. She freefall like this for more than 30 times. Her hair was blown straight by the wind. Finally, Zhuo Xiaonian was kind enough to catch her and stop throwing her. Do you still dare to yell at me? Do you still have the guts to spit? Zhuo Xiaonian said with a reserved expression. I won't. Zhuo Xiaoduo's face was already blue from the cold. He shook his head and said flatteringly, Sister Nian Nian, your cultivation is really at the level of immortals. I really envy you. When can I have such great magical powers like yours? Sai, I'm afraid I won't be able to catch up with you even in 100 or 200 years. You're amazing. Zhuo Xiaoduo gave a thumbs up in admiration and flattered Zhuo Xiaonian. Zhuo Xiaonian's face darkened again. She scolded angrily, Kid, can't you work harder? You won't be able to catch up with me in 100 or 200 years. How dare you say that? You're not a man at all. If you can't catch up with me again, I'll throw you another 100 times. Zhuo Xiaonian was very angry. Zhuo Xiaoduo's face was pale. He really didn't expect that his flattery would backfire. He really didn't know why. When I said I couldn't catch up with you, you got angry. When I said I could catch up with you and hit you, you got angry that it was too difficult. It was really too difficult. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo looked at Zhuo Xiaonian's face. Although the crisis still existed, it was gone. It was like dark clouds covering the sky. Zhuo Xiaoduo was a little worried. The death tribulation still existed. However, his previous reminder had yielded results. Obviously, this situation had occurred because the Zhuo Xiaonian had completely sealed off the information, or she had not determined the final location. However, these dangers were still around her. Zhuo Xiaoduo was a little worried. If only I could tell the fortune of a certain big shot and ask him to protect Sister Nian. That would be great. But the problem is, where can we find such a big shot? Zhuo Xiaonian snorted and rolled her eyes. She stretched out her white and tender hand and said proudly, Here, eat this bottle of marrow cleansing pills. This is a high-quality marrow cleansing pill with elixir veins. It is a peerless product and will definitely improve your aptitude. Upon hearing this, Zhuo Xiaoduo was shocked. You can even pick up such high-grade goods now? Why? Is there a tall, rich, and handsome man among your pursuers? Which family are they from? What did he look like? His family was awesome? Or perhaps from a large sect? Is his background okay? When can I meet my brother-in-law? Zhuo Xiaoduo's series of questions made the Zhuo Xiaonian's face gradually darken at a speed visible to the naked eye. Her pretty eyes were round and her pitch-black eyeballs were fixed in the middle as she looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo. Her sharp canine teeth were slowly revealed. What did I say wrong? Zhuo Xiaoduo panicked. Zhuo Xiaonian's attitude was a prelude to a complete hysterical outburst. Zhuo Xiaoduo was very familiar with this. After all, he had been beaten countless times with this expression. Now, as long as he saw this expression, Zhuo Xiaoduo would be terrified from the inside out. Zhuo Xiaonian gritted her teeth and made a cracking sound. Brother-in-law? What bullshit brother-in-law? Where did you learn this from? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Let me ask you. Will you eat it or not? I'll eat it. Zhuo Xiaoduo opened the bottle cap and poured out 2 pills. He threw them into his mouth and chewed. He stretched his neck and swallowed them. It's disgusting. Zhuo Xiaoduo complained. In the novels, it's said that this kind of elixir will melt in the mouth and turn into a warm current. But why do I feel like I'm eating the bark of an old tree? It's harder than the mooncakes from last year. It's fucking disgusting. Zhuo Xiaonian said gently, This is the highest quality elixir that ordinary people and warriors below the innate stage can take. She pinched Zhuo Xiaoduo's cheeks with both hands and played with them wantonly. Master Samurai, this kind of elixir that can melt in the mouth doesn't only exist in legends. It's real, but I don't dare to give it to you. Zhuo Xiaoduo looked at her angrily. He felt that this guy was pulling his face into the shape of a dog and then into the shape of a cat. He was having a lot of fun, but he didn't dare to say anything or resist. He could only try to find something to say. Why can't Habang give it to me? His cheeks were being pinched and he couldn't speak clearly. Zhuxiaonian said gently, I'm afraid that it'll make Master Samurai Xiaoduo explode. It's such an obvious thing, but you still have to ask? Xiaoduo completely collapsed. He was speechless and stunned on the spot. Doggy, you've become a samurai. That's amazing, Zhuxiaonian said with some relief. In the future, I'll accompany you in your cultivation. Do you understand? Zhuxiaonian's voice was extremely gentle, but Zhuxiaoduo's hair stood on end. He screamed no. Well, it's settled then. Zhuxiaonian looked relaxed and said, I'm very pleased that you responded so readily. I'll remember it in my heart. Are you a devil? Zhuxiaoduo said in despair. In the path of a samurai, you can only try your best to move forward. To move forward, you still need to work hard. But to take a step back, you'll be doomed eternally and unable to recover. Zhuxiaonian straightened up and said, in the future, you'll cultivate in school during the day and remember to go home immediately after school. I'll accompany you to consolidate your cultivation. Zhuxiaoduo wanted to cry but no tears came out. How many male students are in the samurai class? How many female students are there? Zhuxiaonian suddenly changed the topic. There are more male students, a total of 21. There are fewer female students, only 14. Zhuxiaoduo thought of the 2 female students who were beaten up by him this afternoon and couldn't help but smile proudly. Zhuxiaonian looked at Zhuxiaoduo's smile and felt alarmed. Her voice suddenly became gentle and beautiful. There aren't many beautiful women in the martial arts class. Actually, it's not that interesting. Who said that? Zhuxiaoduo instinctively retorted. There are a few girls who are not bad. They're 2 or 3 years younger than me. They're pretty and cute, just like the little sister next door. When we were fighting this afternoon. At this point, she suddenly felt the temperature in the room drop by a lot, and she shivered. Zhuxiaonian smiled gently. Doggy, you've grown up. You know so much. The little sister next door who's 2 or 3 years younger than you is pretty good, isn't she? Zhuxiaoduo shivered. No, not good. I think it's pretty good. Zhuxiaonian stood up and wiped her ring. 3 booklets appeared in her hand out of thin air. You deliberately mentioned the little sister next door who's 2 or 3 years younger than you. Are you reminding me that I'm 3 years older than you? No. Zhuxiaoduo shook his head desperately. I didn't mean that. I really didn't mean that. Sister Nian, biological sister. I wouldn't dare. Biological sister. Zhuxiaonian raised her head and closed her eyes for a long time. Then she lowered her head and opened her eyes. Just because you don't dare? You're hinting at me. Zhuxiaoduo was stunned. Well, I'm not a stingy person. Let's not talk about this anymore. Zhuxiaonian gritted her teeth and handed over the 3 booklets. Let's talk about your cultivation. Among the 3 booklets, one is a palm technique, one is a leg technique, and one is a footwork technique. Zhuxiaonian picked up Zhuxiaoduo. Let's find a place and I'll show you. You have to master these 3 sets of martial arts in the next 3 days. From the 4th day onwards, our special training will officially begin. Let me tell you a secret. If you master these 3 sets of martial arts, the special training will be much easier. If you don't master them, it's not a big deal. It's just a little hard. Let's go now. No. Zhuxiaoduo shouted, you don't have the right. You can't do this to me. I'll never say anything like, Mr. Perfect is chasing you. I'll never say brother-in-law. And I'll never say female classmate. I'll never say it again, Dad. Mom. Help. Take care of your daughter. Woo. Before he could finish his lengthy plea, he was stopped by a gust of wind that blew in his mouth. Zhuxiaonian had already picked up Zhuxiaoduo and flew out. They were flying over a high-rise building at a high speed. The oncoming wind came one after another, causing Zhuxiaoduo's tears to flow. His 2 legs kicked in the air, and his eyes almost popped out. Zhuxiaonian held Zhuxiaoduo by the back of his collar with one hand, as if he was a kitten. They flew over the city easily and happily, without any sense of tiredness. After a while, Zhuxiaonian felt that Zhuxiaoduo seemed to be very uncomfortable. She felt sorry for him. She quietly sent out a trace of spiritual energy to block the wind. Duo immediately recovered and moaned, Xiaonian, dear sister. I'll listen to you in the future. Listen to me in the future? Xiaonian snorted and rolled her eyes. She quietly sent out another trace of spiritual energy to Duo's feet. The anger that had been rising in her heart seemed to have almost dissipated. She looked down and couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Why was I angry just now? I forgot. Sometimes I wonder why I don't have such an elder sister. My parents didn't pick one up for me back then. Sai, please recommend me to comfort myself. Chapter 28. The star-plucking palm, dragon gate kick, and star steps are the most basic kung fu. Xiaonian put Duo down. The two of them had arrived at a huge training ground. There were only the two of them in the huge training ground. Apart from the fact that this training ground was huge, there was another rare thing about it. It was that there were mirrors set up everywhere. It allows you to see your every tiny movement. When I practiced these three kung fu, it only took me a day to memorize them. Xiaonian said fiercely, now I'll give you 3 days. It's definitely enough. Look carefully, I'll demonstrate it once and give you an example. Watch carefully. Xiaonian jumped into the training ground. She didn't start immediately. Instead, she looked at Duo. Duo instantly entered a state of full concentration. He kept taking deep breaths. His eyes were as big as copper bells. Based on his understanding of Xiaonian had already spoken. If he couldn't do it in 3 days, he would be miserable. It wouldn't just be a little hard work. I can tell from her expression just now that she's not teaching kung fu. This violent woman must have been holding back for many years. Duo was infuriated. Before I couldn't cultivate, so even if she wanted to, she couldn't do it. Now that I can cultivate, she naturally has to take action. Just look at how excited she is compared to me, it's obvious. She probably wants to use the reason of cultivating and exchanging pointers to teach me a lesson. He squinted at Xiaonian. Don't be fooled by her beauty. She's never softened her punches when she beat me up all these years. I can't let her use this as an excuse. Otherwise, I won't be able to live a good life. He gritted his teeth and concentrated. Let's start. Xiaonian looked at him gritting his teeth and wanted to laugh. She glared at him and said, watch carefully. As he spoke, he began to move his feet. Star-plucking palm, first move. Duo nodded nervously, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Unexpectedly, in this moment of nervousness, he felt a trace of coolness between his eyebrows enter his eyes again. At the same time, he suddenly had a strange experience. Xiaonian intended to practice, so her movements were slower than normal practice. At this moment, with the coolness in his eyes, every movement was 10 times slower in Duo's eyes. Every lift of her hand, every step she took, every shift of her body, every change of her body, the coordination of her hands and feet, and even the circulation route of each movement were all clear to him at a glance and went straight to his heart. Duo couldn't help but follow Xiaonian's demonstration. When Xiaonian finished typing, Duo was surprised to find that he had memorized everything. Moreover, it was an extremely familiar memory. This set of movements seemed to have been imprinted in his mind. Wow! I'm really a genius. Duo was pleasantly surprised. It actually had such an effect? No, I have to do it more clumsily. If the witch sees that I'm learning too fast, she'll definitely think of other ways. Come on. Xiaonian saw that Duo had started to practice with him and smiled encouragingly. But in his heart, he said, Gozi, these movements can't be learned just by practicing once. You're so impatient that you want to eat hot tofu. You're going to suffer. How dare you say tall, rich, and handsome in front of me? Brother-in-law. How dare you talk about your female classmates in front of me? Little sister next door. Humph. How dare you? How dare you betray me in front of mom? Humph. Humph. At home. They're out. Yes, they're out. The astral soul stone at home won't last long, right? We have to do business and provide for Duo's cultivation. Don't worry, I have a way. Changlu took out his cell phone and hesitated. Wu Yuding's beautiful eyes looked at Changlu's cell phone and felt her throat dry. She said, make a call. Changlu nodded. Make a call. Okay. Wu Yuding seemed to be quite relaxed. Zhuo Changlu sighed. I really want to. I just want to be a salted fish. Wu Yuding frowned. What do you mean? Zhuo Changlu was a little dispirited. He said, how did you get pregnant back then? Wu Yuding said angrily, why are you asking me about this? You should be asking yourself. Zhuo Zhanglu retorted, it takes more than one hand to clap, right? Wu Yuding gritted her teeth and pinched Zhuo Changlu's waist. What? What did you say? You're strange. Me? You? No. Of course it's my fault. It's definitely my fault. Zhuo Changlu said righteously, actually, I was careless back then. Honey, they're not at home. They probably won't be back for 3 to 5 hours. Wu Yuding blushed and glared at him. What are you trying to do? I want to. Zhuo Changlu's face was drooling as he reached out his hand. I was wondering if it was that time. When you were the most unruly. Can't you do something serious? Go and make a call first. Wu Yuding blushed and slapped Zhuo Changlu's hand aside. She turned around and locked the door of the study. When Zhuo Xiaonian and Zhuo Xiaoduo left home, it was about 8 o'clock in the evening. When they returned home, it was almost dawn. Zhuo Xiaoduo was almost exhausted when Zhuo Xiaonian carried him through the door. He saw Zhuo Changlu coming out of the bathroom after taking a shower. His hair was still dripping with water. Dad, you're still awake. Zhuo Xiaonian was a little shocked. Usually, their parents would have gone to bed by this time. But today it was so late. What was going on? Yes, I was studying something just now. I was so engrossed that I didn't realize it was so late. Zhuo Changlu's expression did not change, but he was a little short of breath. He replied calmly while drying his hair. Where did you two go? Why did you come back so late? I took Xiao Duo to the martial arts center and taught him some fist techniques. Now that Xiao Duo has entered the path of Tao, he needs to strengthen his foundation. This kind of training will be indispensable in the future. Zhuo Xiaonian paused and said worriedly, Dad, it's so late. You should go to bed. I see that you don't look so good. Are you tired from working today? You must take care of your body. Don't be too tired. Zhuo Changlu seemed to almost stumble. He laughed dryly, I'm really old. It's okay, you two go to bed. Zhuo Xiaonian was very concerned and said, Dad, you don't have to work so hard in the future. Doggy and I have grown up. You and my mom don't have to be too tired. Let go of us appropriately and let us do something for this family. Where's my mom? Zhuo Changlu's face darkened and said, Why are you so talkative today? I'm not old enough to be unable to move. Who are you to tell me what to do? Go to bed. He shooed the siblings away as if they were chicks. Zhuo Xiaonian helped Zhuo Xiaoduo into the room. She saw that the guy fell asleep like a dead pig as soon as he got on the bed. His whole body was like mud lying on the bed with his arms and legs spread out. She couldn't help but smile and said, It seems that this guy is really tired. But it doesn't matter. Zhuo Xiaonian went to the bed and sat down. She slightly channeled her energy and the power of the stars around her immediately surged like a tide. In a moment, it condensed into something like a transparent crystal ball in her white and tender palm. Zhuo Xiaonian waved her hand and the spiritual energy ball began to quietly rotate above Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. It constantly moved along the meridians of Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. With every circle it made, the spiritual energy ball became smaller. Zhuo Xiaonian muttered as she channeled her energy, Dad is so fierce today. He actually yelled at me. Doggy is still the best. I can bully him however I want. That's great. After Zhuo Xiaonian and Zhuo Xiaoduo entered the room, they watched the door close. Zhuo Changlu coughed. Wu Yuding sneaked out of the bathroom like a thief with a bath towel draped over her body. She glared fiercely at Zhuo Changlu with a red face and quietly entered the room. Zhuo Changlu coughed and shouted majestically, Go to bed early. Only then did he leisurely return to his room. That night, Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was exhausted from the training, slept very soundly. He even had a beautiful dream. He dreamed that he had succeeded in his cultivation and surpassed Zhuo Xiaonian. He was grabbing Zhuo Xiaonian, pressing her on his knees and spanking her. He was laughing heartily as he spanked her. He was relaxed and happy. Awesome. It's really awesome. In the wee hours of the morning, a meteor shower came as scheduled, causing the earth to shake once again. This kind of shaking was not unfamiliar to the people of this era, although not everyone knew the real cause of it and the meaning behind it. Xiaoduo woke up at the right time. After a good night's sleep, he felt full of energy. His entire body was filled with energy. He slightly circulated his spirit energy, and unexpectedly discovered that his cultivation seemed to have improved a lot. The palm and foot movements that he had just learned last night were clearly imprinted in his mind. I'm really a talent that has been buried. After awakening, I can improve so much just by sleeping. Eidetic memory, I succeeded in one try. Zhuxiaonian took a day, but I only took 3 hours. My talent is really terrifying. Xiaoduo got up and rushed out of the room. He turned on the faucet and put his head under it for a while. Immediately, his mind became clearer. Take a piss, wash my face and brush my teeth. Xiaoduo completed a series of basic morning movements in less than 3 minutes. Dawn had just appeared in the sky, and there was still some time before the sun rose. I'm so hard-working. Seeing that there was no movement in the other rooms, Xiaoduo quietly went out and jogged to do his morning exercise. At this moment, there were many old people sitting quietly beside the artificial lake in the park in the residential area. There were also many people running in circles in the morning. The earth was still shaking slightly, but it did not surprise the people. Xiaoduo looked up and saw the traces of meteors falling from the endless sky in an arc. He did not know where they landed. He was used to this scene in the past, but now that he knew the deeper secrets of the world, he was only shocked. At this moment, an old man and an old woman were walking slowly while supporting each other. When they saw Xiaoduo looking up at the meteors, a smile appeared on their wrinkled face. This young man likes meteors. The old lady opened her toothless mouth and chuckled. There's nothing wrong with liking shooting stars. It's said that in the previous era of science and technology, shooting stars were a rare sight. People would make a wish when they saw a shooting star, thinking that they had received an opportunity. The old man nodded. It's a pity that after the world turned upside down, no one made a wish anymore. Seeing a meteor means death. The old woman punched the old man unhappily. How can you say that? The old man chuckled. Seeing hundreds of thousands of meteors in a day, it's not an exaggeration to say that I want to vomit when I see them. Let's just say that from last night until now, have there been hundreds of thousands of meteors falling from the sky above Phoenix City? An old man beside him who also had very few teeth joined in the fun. Are there hundreds of thousands? I'm afraid there's not even a tenth of that number. Xiaoduo pondered for a moment. He found a high place and looked at the sky. However, he could not see anything even though he tried to look at it. At this moment, a sentence that little Fatty said during his lesson yesterday flashed through his mind. Our city is only protected by strong people who guide the meteors out of the sky and cause them to fall into the wasteland. That's why we're safe and sound. At this moment, through the misty layer of fog above the city, he could not see anything at all. However, Xiaoduo seemed to see a person standing in the void. The meteors that were falling from the sky and were about to hit the city changed their trajectories one by one and guided them to a desolate area. He was moving around, swinging and sweeping, not letting go of a single meteor. He did not miss a single one. His wide sleeves fluttered in the wind. He was like a deep pool of water and a mountain peak, strict and strict. How many strong people have sacrificed their lives for the peace of the common people? Xiaoduo suddenly had a deeper understanding of this sentence. He stood there in a daze and looked at the sky in a daze for a long time. On the way to school, Xiaoduo's footsteps were very fast. At the level of a martial warrior, his movement speed was much faster than that of an ordinary person. He turned the corner and was about to walk to the place where he caught the thief yesterday afternoon. Xiaoduo glanced over casually and was stunned. As far as his eyes could see, a young girl was holding a mobile phone in her hand. She leaned against a lamp post and looked at it in a daze. The corners of her mouth curled up into a smile from time to time. A small pink bag was slung over her shoulder. A comrade made a phone call. Let's go for a drink. Damn it, this bunch of bastards, they weren't so enthusiastic before. Ever since they found out that I can't drink after the operation, they've been asking me out 3 times a day. Are they human? When I can drink, they'll all die young. So please recommend me. Chapter 29. Zuoxiao Duo could not help but scratch his head. The first impression he had after witnessing this scene was that he had traveled back in time to yesterday's afternoon. Why is this girl here again? Or should I say, why is she still here? Zuoxiao Duo was puzzled and felt that something was wrong. However, he was not interested and did not have the time to meddle in other people's business. He walked past the girl and continued to walk forward. Zuoxiao Duo have never been late for school. However, after taking a few steps he suddenly froze. Because there was a pink wallet lying 3 or 4 meters in front of him. This scene was all too familiar. Yesterday this wallet had been in Zuoxiao Duo's hands. Although he did not see it for 10,000 years, there was no way he would mistake it. Zuoxiao Duo could no longer ignore it. He instinctively took a few steps back and poked his head out from the corner of the wall to take a look. He saw that the girl was still holding her phone in her hand and leaning against the lamppost. She seemed to be lost in thought and a smile appeared on her face from time to time. A small pink bag was slung over her shoulder. Even if Zuoxiao Duo had a big heart, he still felt that something was wrong. Zuoxiao Duo frowned and focused his eyes on the girl. He looked at the wallet at his feet and bent down to pick it up. He walked back a few steps and swung his right arm. Go! The wallet flew in a beautiful arc for more than 20 meters and smashed into the girl's arms like a cannonball. The girl suddenly screamed and the phone in her hand fell to the ground. When the girl turned her head to look, she saw that there was no one around the corner. She was stunned for a moment and an inexplicable look flashed in her eyes. Bastard, he didn't take the bait. You don't even want the money I gave you. Aren't you a miser? At this moment, Zuoxiao Duo had already walked to the school gate. However, the inexplicable pressure in his heart did not disappear. He turned his head subconsciously to look. He saw a girl in a pink dress quietly leaning against a lamppost more than 10 meters behind him. She was holding a phone in her hand and looking at it in a daze. From time to time, a smile would appear on her face. A small pink bag was slung over her shoulder. What the fuck is this? Zuoxiao Duo shuddered and quickly walked into the school. A few people were rushing out of the school. Zuoxiao Duo was stunned. He turned his head to look, but the few of them had already disappeared. This speed was extremely fast. What's going on? Those people's faces are shrouded in a black aura, and their heads are covered in a murderous aura. It's the sign of death. Why did they come out of the school? But those people were already far away. Sigh, what a waste of my luck points. Zuoxiao Duo felt a little regretful. But at this moment, a cool breeze descended from the sky. One drop. Zuoxiao Duo was stunned. Where did it come from? I didn't do anything. What's going on? Why were they suddenly giving him benefits? Did you bring the tuition fees? Qin Fengyang's face was so gloomy that it was almost dripping water. Zuoxiao Duo clutched the bag in his hand tightly as if water was going to come out of it. Anyone could see the reluctance on his face. Teacher Qin, can you tell? I'm actually a cultivation genius. Qin Fengyang, who was completely unprepared for this sentence, was stunned. For a moment he was unable to respond. Oh? Look, I've just been transferred into the class, and my seat has been randomly upgraded from 36 to 30. What a great improvement. Zuoxiao Duo clutched the bag tightly in his arms like a hungry dog protecting its food. A genius like me is truly rare in the world. Teacher Qin. Qin Fengyang's face twisted. What are you trying to say? Zuoxiao Duo was filled with hope as he said, I just hope that you can reflect to the school how talented I am under your guidance. This is something that I would be proud of. Someone's scheme was too obvious. With just one sentence, he had pulled him and Teacher Qin together in an attempt to stir up the crowd. Qin Fengyang's face darkened. Just tell me what you want. Zuoxiao Duo said flatteringly. What I mean is very simple, very simple. I just hope that the school can reduce my tuition fees. Don't all geniuses receive free education? Cough cough. Qin Fengyang was expressionless. He tried his best to be tactful. Geniuses may receive free education, but you're not. Or rather, you're not that talented yet. Do you understand what I'm saying? Zuoxiao Duo tried even harder. It's okay if I don't receive it. Teacher, can you help me enroll in a poor household? Qin Fengyang's face twisted. He stretched out his hand. Just say it. Did you bring the money? If you did, I'll take you to pay the fees. If not, scram. Zuo looked extremely disappointed. He said faintly, Teacher Qin, although I've only known you for a short while, I've always thought that you're a good teacher. I'm very grateful to you. Qin Fengyang couldn't take it anymore. I can only say that you've misjudged me. Where's the money? I'm asking you, did you bring the money? Zuo rolled his eyes. Teacher, why are you like the legendary landlord collecting rent? How can I not pay tuition fees when I go to school? How can I make things difficult for you? I won't. Money, astral soul stone, those are all fine. I just want to discuss it with you. Look at your pale face. Why are you so anxious? Follow me. Qin Fengyang's face darkened. He put his trembling hands into his trouser pockets. He turned around and left. He was afraid that if he stayed one more second, he wouldn't be able to stop himself from teaching this guy a lesson. What the hell was this guy? Academic Affairs Office. Qin Fengyang watched Zuo as he paid the tuition fees. He looked so pained that he was on the verge of collapse. His eyes were fixed on the accounting staff of the Academic Affairs Office as he counted the money. Those were the eyes of a hungry wolf. The accounting staff was counting the money. Zuo's hands were stretching and bending, and he was swallowing his saliva to Qin Fengyang, who thought that he could stay out of this, crossed his legs and looked at him. He muttered in his heart, if you have the guts, why don't you take it back? Unfortunately, Teacher Qin was disappointed. Even after the receipt was issued, Zuo didn't rush forward to snatch it back. When the 50 low-grade astral soul stones were paid, Qin Fengyang stood up and led the dazed Zuo out. He glanced sideways at Zuo. This guy's expression was no longer dazed. It was as if his parents had died. It was as if someone had cut off a few kilograms of flesh from his body while he was still alive. His cheeks were trembling and trembling. That's my dad's savings from several lifetimes. Zuo muttered neurotically, my dad's life wasn't easy. My family, it's too difficult. Teacher, you don't know, my sister has cerebral palsy since she was young. The medical expenses all these years. No matter how unsympathetic Qin Fengyang was, he couldn't help but ask, your sister has cerebral palsy since she was young? Disabled? Yes. Zuo sighed. My family can only buy 10 kilograms of rice a month. The rest is subsidized by wild vegetables. All the money has to be saved. In order to raise the tuition fees this time, my dad sold his blood for me, and my mom worked as a sack carrier for me. My heart aches. Qin Fengyang suddenly felt pity for him. It turned out that this student's family situation was so difficult. No wonder he was so reluctant to part with him. Qin Fengyang sighed in his heart. It was said that the children of the poor matured early. This sentence was not false at all. But why was it his dad who sold his blood, and his mom who worked as a sack carrier? Shouldn't she be transferred over? Well, there was no need to care about those details. It was definitely difficult. It's not easy for you either. Qin Fengyang sighed. But the school isn't a charity. Since you've shouldered such great expectations from your family, you mustn't let them down. Zuo let out a long sigh, his eyes turning red. I will. Don't worry, Teacher Qin. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll do my best to learn. Qin Fengyang was unexpectedly reminded of Zuo's desperate efforts yesterday. No wonder. What a sensible child. No wonder he was a little stingy, but being born in such a poor family in an era where a single penny could stump a hero, how could he not know the importance of money? Qin Fengyang couldn't help but sigh. It's good to study hard and cultivate diligently, but you have to take care of your body. It's okay, teacher. Zuo said with a strong expression. I know that my family background and aptitude can't compare to others. I can only rely on myself for everything. I can only work harder than others, be more frugal, work harder, and... His gaze was firm and clear. I understand. Qin Fengyang patted Zuo's shoulder comfortingly. At this moment he thought of his parents who had worked hard all their lives. He also thought of the year when he paid his tuition fees. His father also took out his life savings and checked them against the son one by one, afraid that they would be fake and delay his son's future. He borrowed from one family after another, begged them one by one. That how similar was it to Zuo's family? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel sour in his heart. He pressed Zuo's shoulder and said, after paying these, Do you still have the usual cultivation resources? Important point to explain. Zuo Duo didn't transmigrate, nor was he reborn. He was just an ordinary teenager who had a strange dream. Well, that's the current setting, so there's no such thing as living two lives about him. So there's no need to argue about this. When I was in class, I often saw some students saying mysteriously, "Hey, I had a strange dream last night." Then they discussed it for the whole day. So please recommend me. Chapter 30. Zuo Duo revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Of course not. My family has already gone bankrupt. I don't even know how to pay for next semester's tuition fees. Qin Fengyang sighed. He fished out 2 pieces of low-grade jade of astral souls from his pocket and stuffed them into Zuo Duo's hands. Use them first. We'll talk about it after you're done. He sighed and turned to leave. Zuo Duo was stunned. Holding the still warm jade of astral souls in his hand, Zuo Duo felt unreal. He looked at Qin Fengyang's back as he turned to leave and suddenly had a strange feeling. Then he remembered. I shouldn't have taken it. I still have 10 pieces of mid-grade jade in my bag. Low-grade jade can't be compared to mid-grade jade for cultivation. This isn't something that can be done in a day. Once I'm exposed. Besides, teacher is a creature that will visit my home. Teacher. Zuo Duo hurriedly chased after him, his face covered in cold sweat. Oh no, I bragged too much. Teacher believed me. But Qin Fengyang was already gone. In the morning cultivation class. As usual, Qin Fengyang activated the astral souls array, and then used his own spiritual energy to draw out the spiritual energy. Spiritual energy quickly filled the entire classroom. Just like yesterday, the 3 halos lit up first, and then the other halos lit up one by one. And Zuo Duo's halo, which was ranked 30th, was still much brighter than the others. Qin Fengyang nodded secretly. Zuo Duo was indeed talented. His bragging was not in vain. However, he was limited by his authority and couldn't help him much. He could only hope that the little guy would work hard. Teacher Qin quickly collected his thoughts and carefully guided the spiritual energy to help the little guy cultivate. After half the class, Qin Fengyang vaguely felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. The vortex halo above Zuo Duo's head was undoubtedly very strong, not inferior to the 3 chiefs. However, the brilliance in his hand, this didn't seem like something that could be emitted by a low-grade jade of astral souls. This rate of progress was simply too excessive. Qin Fengyang released his soul sense and arrived above Zuo Duo, with a soft buzz. The spirit qi in the entire classroom suddenly fluctuated. This sudden change caused everyone who was cultivating to feel an abnormality. Many people were even startled awake as their blood and qi surged. The source of this change was Qin Fengyang. At this moment, Qin Fengyang's eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets because he saw Zuo Duo wasn't holding a low-tier jade of astral souls. That was clearly a mid-tier jade of astral souls. Middle grade. Looking at this Zuo Duo, who was now seriously cultivating and claimed that his family was extremely poor, his sister was cerebral palsy, his father sold blood, and his mother carried gunny sacks, Qin Fengyang suddenly felt like he was seeing stars. Damn it. He had been tricked. This guy clearly didn't speak the truth. I already knew that this guy was a swindler, but I still fell for his trick. I was fooled. After one period of class, it was time to relax. Qin Fengyang didn't leave. He held a roll of news in his hand and looked down with a complicated gaze. Everyone felt the strange atmosphere. Why was Teacher Qin so quiet today? Didn't he usually announce the news and major events at this time every morning? What was going on today? Zuo Duo. Qin Fengyang thought for a long time and decided that he couldn't bear it anymore. Zuo Duo stood up obediently and said, "Hello, Teacher Qin." Before Teacher Qin could react, he took the initiative and said to the students passionately, "Students, there's something I have to say. If I don't say it, I feel guilty." The 35 students looked at him in confusion. What was wrong with this guy? Zuo Duo said with emotion, "As everyone knows, my family is poor. After I collected the tuition fees, I didn't have much left." At this time, Teacher Qin. Shut up. Qin Fengyang was anxious. What nonsense was this little bastard talking about? If you say this, everyone in the class who can't afford to use the Jade of Astral Souls will come to me. Not to mention going bankrupt. Even if I bet all my money on it, I don't have that many Star Soul Jades. Even if I expose Wuxiao's lie and deceive me, it doesn't change the fact that I spontaneously sponsored his Jade of Astral Souls. I even sponsored a swindler. How can I not sponsor those who really need it? No. Zuoxiaoduo, if your family is poor, then work hard in your cultivation. Qin Fengyang said, you don't have to say anything else. The only thing you need to do now is to study. Do you understand? Zuoxiaoduo lowered his head and said, thank you, teacher. You're a role model. I'll take you as my role model for the rest of my life. Qin Fengyang felt a lump in his chest. He couldn't go up or down. He suddenly wanted to hit someone, but there was no one for him to hit. Sit down. Qin Fengyang said gloomily, next, I'll announce a piece of good news. Hearing that it was good news, all the students became spirited, but they were a little puzzled. In the past, when Teacher Qin announced good news, he was always in high spirits. Why did he look so gloomy today? This was truly a little abnormal. A few days ago, the UMNO Alliance's army of millions attacked the Sun Moon Pass. The two sides fought a bloody battle for 7 days and 7 nights. The Sun Moon Pass was in a precarious situation. However, at the most critical moment, the Heavenly King of the Right, Yu Dongtian, arrived. After a bloody battle, you defeated one of the 12 Heavenly Kings of the UMNO Alliance, Ho Yunhai, and saved the Sun Moon Pass from danger. You even pursued the enemy for 3,000 miles. Qin Fengyang's voice became more and more excited as he said, currently, the Sun Moon Pass's defense line has advanced 2,500 miles. A new fortress is being built. And this new fortress will be named Heavenly King Pass. This is a great victory for us, the Astral Souls. Hooray! The whole classroom suddenly became excited. All of the students cheered loudly with faces full of excitement. The Sun Moon Pass, we humans have been defending it for tens of thousands of years. Now we finally have a chance to take a breather. Qin Fengyang's face glowed with excitement. The Heavenly King of the Right is mighty. The classroom was in an uproar. Only Zuoxiaoduo was dumbfounded by this statement because he had never heard of it before. What did this victory and the construction of the fortress mean? For so many years we humans have been fighting hard at the Sun Moon Pass. Bones have been piled up, and millions of heroic souls have died. Qin Fengyang sighed softly. But before the Sun Moon Pass, the number of heroes who have died in battle for tens of thousands of years is no less than 100 billion. In the future, when people reach a certain level of cultivation, everyone will have to go to the Sun Moon Pass and overcome the difficulties together. That is our symbol and also our territory. The ancients said that every inch of land is an inch of blood. Qin Fengyang was full of emotions. But every inch of land of the Sun Moon Pass is more than an inch of blood. Every inch of land is filled with millions of heroic souls. For a moment the whole classroom was silent. Even Zuoxiaoduo, who had a mischievous personality, felt inexplicably heavy at this moment. At this moment, a mischievous voice suddenly asked lazily, actually, what I am most concerned about is, who is the Moon Pass? Why do so many people have to go there? And why do we have to go there? In the future. Who is the Moon Pass? Qin Fengyang suddenly exploded. Even Zuoxiaoduo felt that this guy who spoke was really fearless of death. He looked over. However, he saw that it was a little fatty who was ranked 4th. He had an indifferent look on his face and even looked a little sleepy. At this moment, his eyes were wide open as if he had not woken up. At this moment he suddenly felt the solemn atmosphere in the class. His sleepy eyes opened wider and wider, and gradually revealed a look of shock. Li Chongming. Qin Fengyang was so angry that his face turned purple. You are practicing your family's great dream divine art. Of course this is the right thing to do. But can you not talk nonsense? Can you clear your head? Li Chongming seemed to have woken up completely. His little fat face was full of panic. Teacher, I was wrong. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm sorry. I really didn't do it on purpose. Usually it's fine. But today's mistake is not something that can be dealt with by saying sorry, and not on purpose. The person you just blasphemed is the hero who protects us, the hero who protects all the people. Qin Fengyang was furious. For the whole day, listen to the class and practice with one hand upside down. If you are even a little bit crooked, get the hell out of here. The little fatty Li Chongming no longer argued. He stood up obediently, and with a twisted face, he stood up upside down and hurriedly explained, "Teacher, I really don't know who Yuguan is. How is he a hero? Get the hell out of here." Answering a book friend's question. My negligence. Stone of Astral Souls and Jade of Astral Souls. If you open the Stone of Astral Souls, there might be Jade of Astral Souls. It depends on your luck. But what I wrote before was a little messy. I took the time to correct it. Also, the weight of the Stone of Astral Souls. I wrote it very seriously before, but I wrote it carelessly. Thank you for bringing it up, brother. This is a big problem. Secondly, I heard that Sister Guan arranged a cameo for me? Haha. So please recommend me. Chapter 31. An Angry Roar. The little fatty really rolled out of the room and stood at the door as punishment, completely out of Teacher Qin's sight. However, Qin Fengyang's chest was still heaving up and down. He was obviously furious. In life, you can act according to the urgency of the situation, and you can also have a utilitarian heart. However, you must remember that there is a kind of person in this world that you must never insult. This kind of person, no matter when and where they are mentioned, your heart must be filled with respect. This kind of person is the heroes who shed their blood for us humans. Never joke about the heroes' names. Never insult the heroes. This is the bottom line of all humans in the Astral Souls continent. Qin Fengyang said heavily, I don't care about others but my students. Must remember this bottom line in their lives. Anyone who dares to violate it must pay the price. I, Qin Fengyang, am not some big shot. In fact, I'm just a humble person. It won't cause any serious consequences, but I still want to say something here. I don't admit that I have ever taught a student who insults the heroes. Li Zhongming. Qin Fengyang's cold voice was mixed with undisguised disgust. You can discuss with your family and change your class. Outside the door, the little fatty's aggrieved voice could be heard. Teacher, it's not wrong for you to respect the heroes. We should all respect the heroes. However, you have to be reasonable. I really didn't know. I was sleeping all this time. I just woke up and casually spoke. I really didn't mean to insult the heroes. Teacher, please forgive me this time. I really didn't know that there was a person called Yuguan among the heroes. Qin Fengyang's face became more and more ashen. His veins were bulging and he simply stopped talking. Seeing that Teacher Qin didn't relent, the little fatty was stunned for a moment. Then he burst into tears outside the door. Long Yuxing pondered for a moment. Then he stood up and said, Teacher Qin, I think that what Li Chongming said is most likely true. We don't know much about his family's martial arts, but we do know that he likes to sleep. Basically, he goes to sleep as soon as he comes here. Then he starts to practice his martial arts. This is especially the case since he improves the foundation of his cultivation in his sleep. He doesn't care about the outside world at all. Wan Lixiu also stood up and pleaded, Teacher, although I've always looked down on Li Zhongming this time, the lesson you gave him was too much. Even if he really offended the hero's reputation, it was an unintentional mistake. There's a reason for this. I've watched this guy sleep for an entire semester talking in his sleep. How can I take responsibility for this? The heart-wrenching cries outside the door became even more intense. Little fatty choked on his sobs and said, Teacher Qin, it's really just my mouth. I didn't mean it. I really didn't know. Teacher, please spare me. Umo Yin hesitated for a moment. Then he said, Teacher Qin, Li Chongming has been sleeping since he was a martial disciple. He has never been awake. Why lower yourself to his level? The meaning behind his words was obviously that he was pleading for Li Chongming. There are some things that a martial artist must know, and must be practiced by oneself. Whether it's the Great Dream Divine Art or any other secret martial arts, it's not a reason. After Long Yuxing and the other two's persuasion, Qin Fengyang's anger finally subsided a little. These 2 days let him stand outside as punishment. If he makes any mistakes, I'll transfer him to another class immediately. After that, he picked up a piece of chalk and wrote 3 big words on the blackboard. Sun Moon Pass. Teacher Qin looked at these 3 words. Then he made the words bigger and bolder. Then he pointed at the blackboard and said, "This is the sacred place of martial artists. This is the place that martial artists fight for their entire lives. Everyone must remember this. This is a sacred place. It's not to be humiliated." Zuo looked at the 3 words on the blackboard. Somehow he felt that these 3 words were filled with a murderous aura. He also saw the students pleading for leniency for Li Zhongming. After all, the students are united. Teacher Qin might know that the little fatty didn't do it on purpose, but he still made a big fuss out of it. Is it to let the students plead for mercy? Using this method to strengthen the relationship between the students? Although this kind of unity doesn't seem to be important, it will accumulate. In the future, when we go to the battlefield or go on a mission, this will be of great use. One person's life is equivalent to having countless people protecting it. Teacher Qin, do you think that far ahead? Zuo thought in his heart. He stole a glance at Qin Fengyang's face, but he couldn't see anything. For the entire day, Qin Fengyang's face was cold. All the students kept quiet out of fear. Every one of them was trembling with fear, and worked hard to cultivate. Qin Fengyang came to Zuo's side and glared at him. His gaze was so eerie that it made people tremble with fear. Zuo respectfully took out 2 pieces of low-grade jade of astral souls from his pocket. "I wanted to tell you that you don't need it, but you turned around and left. I couldn't chase after you and couldn't return it in time. However, I still remember your kindness and will never forget it. It's just that. You really don't need it. You should take it and take care of the needier students." Qin Fengyang didn't hesitate. With a flick of his sleeve, the 2 pieces of jade of astral souls in Zuo's hand disappeared. He then asked Zuo, "Is your family really poor?" Zuo sighed. Just as he was about to speak, Qin Fengyang cut him off. "Think carefully before you speak." Zuo's spirit was lifted. He said in a deep voice, "Teacher, compared to most people, my family is really poor. However, compared to most people, my family is still able to get by." Qin Fengyang snorted. Looking at Zuo's respectful manner, he suddenly had an inexplicable urge to beat him up. That was equivalent to not saying anything. He stretched out his finger and curled it up. Then, he knocked on Zuo's head and warned him, "Behave." This knock was loud and clear. Not only was it crisp, but it was also mixed with a sense of echoing emptiness. It sounded a little like the evening drum and morning bell of an ancient temple deep in the mountains. This sudden change caused the entire class to roar with laughter, and the tense atmosphere from before immediately dissipated by a lot. Zuo had been looking for Li Chenglong since morning, because he realized that he couldn't find him in the classroom. In fact, he had disappeared for the whole morning. Where did Li Chenglong go? Did he play truant? Zuo asked during the lunch break. "This kid made fun of me yesterday, but he's nowhere to be seen today." Long Yuxing, who was sitting in front of him, rolled his eyes. "Play truant? That kid went to give a lecture to another class." "Give a lecture?" Zuo was shocked. He was so shocked that he was dumbfounded. He didn't know what to say for a moment. Little fatty giving a lecture to his own class and teaching history was nothing serious. But to be able to give a lecture to another class, and from Long Yuxing's tone, this wasn't the first time this had happened. It had happened many times. This was a super high treatment. Wan Lixio sighed with some regret. Li Chenglong's talent in reading and history is unparalleled, and he has a photographic memory. He can memorize any information once he sees it, and he knows everything you ask him. If it weren't for his mediocre cultivation talent, he would have been the focus of the school long ago. But it's also because of this that the school has the intention to let him directly serve as a lecturer and consultant on history after he graduates. The treatment he will receive will be better than that of a senior like Mr. Qin. Yu Moyan said regretfully, "Better? With Li Chenglong's insight, experience, and knowledge, if he joins my team in the future, or any other team, he will be able to play a huge role. He will only get more. Staying in the school is just a dead wage. He will just eat and wait for death." Long Yuxing also expressed his regret. "It's really a pity to stay in the school." Zuo. That afternoon, the ranking battle went on as scheduled. The final result once again shocked Qin Fengyang. There was no other reason. Zhuoxiaoduo's progress had greatly exceeded his expectations, and even his expectations. It had only been a day and a night, but Zhuoxiaoduo had once again improved by leaps and bounds, as if he had been reborn. Yesterday, he had clearly just finished tempering his right leg. Moreover, the tempering was still incomplete. But today, not only had his right leg been completely tempered, his left leg had also been tempered by more than half. More importantly, the footwork, palm techniques, and leg techniques he had used during the battle. Next, in the field, Zhuoxiaoduo's arrogant tone and smug voice rang out again. This kid had won 3 consecutive battles, all the way to the 27th place. And he was still rushing up. And from the looks of it, he still had some strength left to rely on. In the past 2 days, he had broken through the ranks as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Moreover, his cultivation speed had also improved by leaps and bounds. All the students in the 9th class who were ranked in front of him had a deep sense of crisis. This guy, was he on drugs? After Long Yuxing finished his battle, his eyes were dark. He dragged Wuxia, who was beaten black and blue by him and couldn't get up, over to Zhuoxiaoduo's battle. The more he watched, the more astonished he was. This guy's fist technique today is not right. It's not the honing fist at all. Wuxia, who had been paralyzed on the ground like a puddle of mud, struggled to sit up. He glanced at the battle with his swollen eyes and said, "It's the honing fist. It's the honing fist, but it's a more advanced honing fist. I've seen it before. Can't be wrong." The two of them were panting and resting while watching Zhuoxiaoduo's battle. The more they watched, the more surprised and frightened they became. Zhuoxiaoduo seemed to have taken medicine. He was like a hot knife through butter, surging forward triumphantly. He overturned the 27th place, the 26th place. Until he reached the 19th place did he finally stop moving forward. Qin Fengyang's eyebrows twitched. This was the guy who had stayed back for 5 years? With such talent, such perseverance, such desperation, and such drive, how could he stay back for 5 years? That this afternoon he opened a website. Someone was asking about the book, Wind Conquering the World. The reply below was, "This guy's writing is very bad. He didn't even go to college. I won't read his book." Suddenly, he felt a deep sense of inferiority. I didn't go to college. I'm sorry to those who don't read my book. So please give me a few recommendation tickets to comfort me. Chapter 32. Moreover, he stopped at 19 not because he couldn't win, but because he had no energy left. He was exhausted and had no choice but to stop. Something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Long Yuxing muttered, "Tomorrow or the day after, I'll have to fight with Zhuoxiaoduo. If I don't find a chance to beat him up now, I'm afraid I won't have another chance." Wuxia was also dumbfounded. She had never seen someone who could improve so quickly. Could it be that this guy was really a genius? I also have to find a chance to beat him up a few times to stop his momentum. Wuxia muttered to herself, if he keeps improving like this, he'll catch up with us in a few days. The two of them looked at each other, their eyes full of helplessness. Let's observe him for 2 more days. Long Yuxing said, if he's still at this speed, we'll make our move. Okay. Anne, can you not hit my face in the future? Wuxia was very depressed. I'm a girl. Long Yuxing was also helpless. You still know that you're a girl. You're beating me so hard, where do you want me to hit you? Hit your chest, I'm a hooligan. Hit your butt, I'm a hooligan. Hit your thigh, I'm a hooligan again. Hit your crotch. Even more hooligan. Hit your back, I can't hit you. I don't dare to hit the back of your head. I don't dare to hit your throat or neck. Then tell me, besides your face, where should I hit you? Wuxia grimaced. Long Yuxing looked helpless. Let's hit your face. Okay. Clap, clap, clap. Qin Fengyang clapped his hands. Today's ranking battle ends here. First of all, let us congratulate Zhuoxiaoduo. It's only been 2 days since Zhuoxiaoduo joined the class, but in these 2 days, he's already defeated 16 students in succession and promoted to the 19th position in the class. Qin Fengyang was full of emotion. I have to say, this is the first time in my many years of teaching that I've seen such a result. After hearing this, all the students looked at Zhuoxiaoduo with more admiration and envy. Duo raised his head at the right time, looking high-spirited and proud. In fact, Duo felt proud and elated at this moment. He felt like he was a genius. A bunch of weaklings. Duo thought about these words several times in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. He felt that he would be hurt if he said it out loud. But I still want to say that this result is not because of how strong Duo is. It's just that you are too weak. Qin Fengyang emphasized. I believe that everyone has seen how hard Duo has been cultivating these 2 days. I only want to say one thing. If you can cultivate as hard as Duo, even if your talent is slightly inferior, you won't be caught up so easily. The whole class raised their heads and drank the bowl of chicken soup. Duo was the only one who felt a little uncomfortable. She couldn't help but squint at Qin Yi. What does Mr. Qin mean? Are you saying that I'm not a genius? Even if I put in all my effort to cultivate, would others be able to catch up with me just by putting in some effort? That's not right. I suspect that you're discriminating against me. Many of the students I taught back then, your seniors, have already made meritorious contributions at Sun Moon Pass. As for you, except for a few people, the rest. Qin Fengyang chuckled and stopped talking. However, the 35 people present all had the same feeling. You're the worst batch I've ever taught. Words like, you're the worst batch I've ever taught. The last one. Along with Qin Fengyang's announcement, the 11 people who were defeated by Duo stood up at the same time. They all rubbed their fists and rubbed their palms together. They twisted their necks, twisted their wrists and cracked their fingers. The cracking sounds of their joints were continuous, and the crackling sounds were like firecrackers. Then the 11 people focused their eyes on Duo with hideous smiles on their faces. You. What are you going to do? Duo panicked. How could he not know what was going to happen when he saw this? What are we going to do? We're going to kill you. There were men and women among the 11 people, but the only response was ferocious. The last battle of the day was Duo, who was already exhausted, against the 11 students from the 20th to the 30th place. In other words, Duo was beaten up by a group of people. This was Qin Fengyang's unique class rule. If someone overtook more than 2 positions in a day, the people who were overtaken by him could gang up on him and beat him up. Under this system, this opportunity to vent their anger would basically make the person who overtook them suffer terribly. It had to be said that this method was very effective. After the beating, there would still be resentment and unwillingness to admit that they were overtaken, but it would be difficult to form hatred and resentment. Among the students there was still harmony. Right now, Duo was facing this special mechanism. What was different was that the number of opponents he had to face was slightly more, 11. Following Qin Fengyang's order, the 11 people rushed up like hungry wolves and tigers. Duo only had enough time to let out a hoarse scream, help. Ah! He was already drowned in a sea of punches and kicks. Puff 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 puffed, and after a while, Duo's blood-curdling screams resounded like a pig being slaughtered. The other students who weren't involved in this battle couldn't help but shudder. I also want to be beaten up like this. The lecture ended unknowingly. Another little fatty, Li Chenglong, who came late, said with a face full of envy. Immediately, he attracted a look of disdain. Only you want to? Damn it, everyone wants to, okay? But this time it seemed a little cruel for 11 people to participate in a team sport. So cruel, so exciting, so exciting. Everyone, go back and heal your wounds. Qin Fengyang was straightforward. Duo, follow me. Before his voice died away, the students dispersed in a hubbub. Looking at Duo's bloody nose and swollen face, and the big bump on his head, Qin Fengyang walked forward with his hands behind his back. Why didn't you fight back? With your strength you should be able to take down 3 to 5 people with all your strength. Hiss hiss hiss. Duo frantically rubbed his head. Hiss hiss hiss. These little bastards are really ruthless. Why did I have to fight back? I surpassed them today, and they will be my underlings in the future. As their boss, I have to make them feel good. They are destined to be beaten up anyway. Why do I have to do something unnecessary? Qin Fengyang could not help but clench his fists behind his back. This was the complete opposite of the answer that he had expected. This little bastard is not deliberately making me uncomfortable, right? I have taught for so many years, and this is the first time I have met a student who wants to beat him up as long as he opens his mouth. Who taught you the star-plucking palm, dragon gate kick, and star steps? Qin Fengyang asked faintly. Zhuo Duo answered instinctively, my sister taught me. Qin Fengyang's eyes were full of interest. That's not right. Isn't your sister cerebral palsy? How can she teach you martial arts? I really don't know how many of your sentences are true. Just based on what you have said to me in the past 2 days, how many of them are true? Zhuo Duo covered his mouth and did not dare to make a sound for a long time. Qin Fengyang minded his own business and walked forward, no longer mentioning the topic of his cerebral palsy sister. You are not allowed to use these kinds of martial arts in the future, but you are not allowed to practice them in private. However, you are not allowed to use them in school. Do you understand? Why? These are the basic martial arts used by high-level cultivators to kill enemies in battle. The murderous aura in them is not something a martial warrior can bear. At least, it is not suitable to use them in a spar. Qin Fengyang said. Understood. Well, do you know that these martial arts are the cultivation methods of the Kunlun sect? It is extremely inappropriate for them to appear in our school's students. If someone sees them, I am afraid it will be disadvantageous to you. Qin Fengyang said, fortunately, it is your first time using them today. The other students are still inexperienced and do not know the reason. It is fine to speculate. However, in the future, especially in front of others, do not use them again. I understand. Thank you for your guidance. Zhuo Duo did not pursue the matter and simply agreed. Qin Fengyang was a good teacher. Like Hu Ruoyun, he was a good teacher worthy of respect. It was just that the way he treated his students was different. At this moment, footsteps were heard. 10 people walked out of the building in front of them. Qin Fengyang stood still and saluted. The 10 people returned the salute. Are you going out again? Qin Fengyang asked. Yes, we are going out. The person in the lead had a tall and sturdy build. His face was covered with a full beard, and his eyes were like 2 bells hanging on his face when he stared. He looked very ferocious, but when he spoke to Qin Fengyang, he seemed very close. Old Qin, train these little bastards well. Let them quickly advance to the innate level. Then we can relax a little. The man with the beard laughed. Take care. Of course. As they spoke, Zhuo Duo glanced at the 10 people's faces. Zhuo's heart skipped a beat. This was because the 10 people had black aura between their eyebrows. There was an ominous aura between their eyebrows. Especially the man with the beard. When he smiled, the wrinkles at the corner of his right eye gathered to form ominous lines. These were signs of great danger. In addition, when he walked out from the north-south building, his right eye was in the west. Ominous aura from the west, fatal disaster. These 10 people actually looked like they were about to die. Last night, I don't know who recommended a TV series to be your woman in my next life to my wife. While watching, someone asked me, when you were a soldier, if you had the opportunity to be the secretary of the chief and the chief's daughter took a fancy to you, what would you do? I was reading the comments at that time and casually replied, isn't that easy? You are in your hometown and she is in Beijing. There is no conflict. Cough cough. I am still hurting all over now. Please recommend me to comfort me. Chapter 33. Zhuo Duo couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Just as these people were about to brush past each other, Qin Fengyang had no intention of stopping them at all. Zhuo Duo made up his mind and put on an innocent look. He tilted his head and asked curiously, may I ask what you are going to do? You look like you're going to do something big. I'm so curious. Can you tell me about it? The bearded man laughed and didn't look down on him. He said casually, why can't I tell you? Last night, the meteors flashed and fell into the wilderness. Many of them have not disappeared and the spiritual energy hasn't been completely burned out. There must be good stuff among them. Let's go and get some good stuff for you guys to add to the atmosphere of Second High. Qin Fengyang said worriedly, don't be so sure. People are the key. You must be careful. The bearded man looked annoyed and complained, I wanted to go out when I saw it in the early morning, but the principal didn't let me. He said that if there were too many people competing for it, it would be easy to argue. He dragged it out until the afternoon before letting us go out. If we go now, we probably won't be able to catch the hot stuff even if we eat shit. We can only pick some that others don't want. Alas, our principal is good at everything, but he's timid. The others also laughed out loud. Principal Changjiang is famous for his steadiness. If he hears your cowardly words, you'll probably be finished. The bearded man smiled. I didn't say that the principal is timid. He's just too steady. That's what I mean. Don't think too much. Qin Fengyang smiled. I think the principal is right. It's too risky to go out in the early morning. Countless experts are fighting for that soup. Do you think you can win against them? It's not important whether you can beat them or not. You'll be wronged if you lose your life. It's safer to go out now. Again, people are the key. Staying alive is more important than anything else. Even if you can't get the best soup, you'll definitely gain something. And no one will be jealous. It's safe and good. The bearded man laughed. Old Qin, let's go out together next time. He didn't dare to say that the principal was timid anymore. Qin Fengyang smiled and said, okay. They cupped their hands and were about to leave. Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly said, wait. The bearded man frowned. Teacher, I know a little bit of physiognomy. It seems that you will gain something from your trip this time. However, the prerequisite for gaining something is the direction. The current direction won't do. Why don't I help you calculate? Zhuo Xiaoduo smiled innocently, as if he was serious. What do you mean? What I'm trying to say is that the path you're taking now is divergent, and it'll be difficult for you to gain anything. If you want to gain something, you'll have to look elsewhere. As long as you're heading in the right direction, you'll naturally gain a lot, Zhuo Xiaoduo said seriously. You know physiognomy? You want to show us the way ahead? The bearded man was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed and waved his hand. Let's go. Obviously, he didn't believe it. Qin Fengyang's heart skipped a beat. It did not make sense for Zhuo Xiaoduo to suddenly stand up and ask for fortune-telling. At such an important moment, who would listen to your nonsense? However, Zhuo Xiaoduo was not stupid. Since he brought it up at this time, what was his intention? Qin Fengyang glanced at Xiaoduo and stepped forward to stop the bearded man. He smiled and said, Old Lu, my student can indeed see things that others can't. As the saying goes, it's better to be safe than sorry. Why don't you let him take a look so that everyone can feel at ease, especially me and this kid? It's also good. The bearded brother Lu frowned, his face full of impatience. But since Teacher Qin had already said this, he could only suppress his temper and said, all right, little fellow, come and help me take a look. Where should we go in order to gain something? His tone was very teasing. Zhuo Xiaoduo frowned and thought for a moment. The evil spirit came from the west and went east. Naturally, it was not safe in the east and west. However, his knowledge was not persuasive, and he did not have a reputation. It was no different from empty talk. How could he win people's trust? Then how could he help him avoid death? Just by looking at the way this person talked and even his relationship with Qin Fengyang, he was definitely not a bad person. In particular, the person in front of him was considered his first prime minister. He could not fail. How about this? Please give me a word. Zhuo Xiaoduo pondered for 2 seconds and said. The bearded man became more and more impatient. He drew in front of himself with his foot and said, just this word. Take a look. Zhuo Xiaoduo looked down and saw the word one. From the east to the west, he casually used his foot to draw a line. It actually gave off a sense of strict discipline. The other 9 people also laughed and gathered in a circle, looking at the word written by the bearded man. Boss drew with his foot, and it was just one word. It's actually written well. This word is written like a shoulder pull. Let's see what this little guy is saying. Zhuo Xiaoduo sighed deeply. Qin Fengyang's eyes were fixed on Zhuo Xiaoduo's face and Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes. When Zhuo Xiaoduo first judged the outcome of the 10 people, Qin Fengyang already knew that this guy was not simple. This was because his judgment at that time was different from Zhuo Xiaoduo's judgment. In the end, Zhuo Xiaoduo was right and his judgment was wrong. It was also from then on that Qin Fengyang came to a conclusion. Zhuo Xiaoduo might really be good at fortune-telling. If someone said that Zhuo Xiaoduo's observation skills were better than his, Qin Fengyang would never admit it even if he was beaten to death. Today's match had confirmed his judgment. Reading a person's physiognomy couldn't possibly lead to a worse outcome. This word is not good. From east to west there is nowhere to hide. This word is the beginning of the word death. If you want to go to the land of dispute, it is an ominous sign. Zhuoxiaoduo's face was solemn, and his words were shocking. Therefore the east and west, including the straight road from east to west, must not go. The bearded man, Brother Lu, narrowed his eyes and said, "Oh, there are 10 people in your group. This word is also the beginning of the word 10. The beginning of the word 10, the beginning of the word 10, the beginning of the word 10, the beginning of the word death, together." Zhuoxiaoduo's face was solemn, and his voice became heavy. Death. Fuck. The bearded man raised his hand and was about to hit him. Qin Fengyang raised his hand and stopped the bearded man's right hand in the air. It's not good to get angry by fortune-telling. Then he looked at Zhuoxiaoduo. "Xiaoduo, are you serious? This is a serious matter, don't joke around." Joke? Why would I joke around with people's lives? From east to west there is indeed a lot of danger and there is no chance of survival. Then how do we solve it? Zhuoxiaoduo took a deep breath and said, "The 10 of you go together. You can't go to east or west, and it's best not to even touch the straight road from east to west. The south is the end of the word 10, and there is no chance of survival. Only the north is the hope of survival. The north is a place where the word 10 starts from nothing. If you go north, not only will there be no danger, but you will also gain a lot." Zhuoxiaoduo said seriously, "This trip you should go north. Only the north is auspicious." After listening to Zhuoxiaoduo's judgment of life and death, the bearded man stared at Zhuoxiaoduo suspiciously. "Although you said it as if it's true, this stroke is obviously just a casual stroke of my foot. You actually said that you could see so much? Isn't that a bit too much?" Zhuoxiaoduo said with a solemn expression, "A human's life is the most wonderful thing in this world. Every movement and stillness has unfathomable mysteries. In life, every time there is a big event, even if there is no news in advance, it is inevitable that there will be a little bit of feeling. For example, some people completely don't know that there will be a disaster, and they will do something that they have decided not to do before. For example, some healthy people suddenly write a will on a whim, or inexplicably talk about some things after death. Another example is that some people's eyes will constantly twitch before a disaster comes, and this sign is often confirmed after the disaster. We practitioners often hear about the saying of a whim. It means that we feel uneasy a few days before a disaster comes. I believe that all of you have experienced this before. On the other hand, before some happy events come, there will also be inexplicable signs. No matter what you do, it will be particularly smooth. Don't these examples prove that?" Zhuoxiaoduo's face was solemn as he said word by word. "These examples, at least in my opinion, are some revelations that human life has received in the dark. As for the method of divination, it is precisely to express these revelations given to people by the heavens in a relatively picturesque manner." Brother Lu was half convinced by Zhuoxiaoduo's words. He was stunned for a while before he said, "Boy, are you saying that you have great attainment and have peeped into the secrets of God? At this moment you are showing us the way to avoid death and extend life, and escape death? Are you really not talking nonsense and fooling me?" "Mr. Lu, please think about it carefully. Before I asked you this question, did you seriously think about which word you would write? After I asked, the word 1 was written casually, but it can also be said that it came on time. But why did you only write this word? Isn't it fine to write your name? Write other words that are lingering in your heart? Why must it be 1? This is the revelation of God, the reflection of God's secrets." Zhuoxiaoduo heaved a long sigh of relief. He placed one hand in front of his chest and sang loudly, "Immeasurable Heavenly Sovereign. Excellent, excellent." After debating the hypothetical proposition of, "the chief's daughter likes you" for the whole day, my head was completely swollen. The most painful thing was that it clearly didn't make sense, but it didn't make sense. In the end, my remaining private savings of 1,930 yuan were confiscated, and I wouldn't be receiving any pocket money this month to end the debate. In other words, from now until June 15th, I won't have a single cent on me. It's simply 10,000 capital letters in capital letters. The more I think about it, the more I feel that I have been fooled. It's very bitter. I only see a bitter face when I look in the mirror now. So, I'm asking for recommendation tickets and rewards to comfort me. Chapter 34. Brother Lu and the other 10 people were stunned by Zhuoxiaoduo's words. They were all a little surprised and doubtful, especially the bearded teacher Lu, who somehow felt that the young man in front of him was very mysterious. His mysterious aura was not to be underestimated and could not be neglected. Brother Lu paused and turned to ask, "Teacher Qin, what does your student's family do?" Brother Lu knew Qin Fengyang very well. He knew that although his old friend usually handled things calmly and put safety first, he did not know how to ask the gods for divination. Zhuoxiaoduo was his student, but he was good at divination. It was most likely that he came from his family. At this moment, Qin Fengyang was also stunned. He instinctively scratched his head and said, "Old Lu, there's no point in pursuing my student's master. In any case, I really feel that little Duo's words are very reasonable. This is a matter of life and death. We can't be careless. It's better to believe it than not." The bearded man coughed and his eyes became more and more worried. Deep down, he really did not want to believe it. However, what Zhuoxiaoduo said just now happened to be what he had just done. Just last night, he had inexplicably written a will and arranged everything after his death. Previously, when he went out to carry out missions or do other things, he was already used to it. He had never done something so petty. However, last night he did not know why, but he felt that his job was actually quite dangerous. Every time his companions went out, they would write their wills in advance. With a sudden thought, he imitated his other companions and wrote a letter for himself. He told them all of his assets and all of his passwords. He did not expect to meet Zhuoxiaoduo when he just came out this morning. Teacher Lu's heart was beating like a drum when he heard this. Could it be that I really realized that something was wrong? Could it really be a hint from God? East, west, south. The bearded man muttered. Still filled with confusion, the bearded man led his 9 brothers out of the school gate. "Boss, do you really believe that kid's words?" one of the brothers asked with a smile. "Before today, there was a 99% chance that I wouldn't have believed it. But after yesterday's incident, I was inexplicably moved." In short, he was right. The bearded brother Lu said faintly, "You also know that we have long been used to going out on missions. It is as common as eating a meal. Basically, we have to go out once every few days. Before this, you all have the habit of writing a will, but I have never written one. I scoffed at it and even laughed at you many times. So what? We're all used to it. When you laugh at us, you've always spared no effort." The brothers nodded together. "But last night I inexplicably wrote a suicide note," the bearded man said. The 9 brothers were all shocked. "Also, I made the decision this morning to search the south of the city. If they didn't find anything in the southern part of the city, they would split up and search in the east and west respectively. As for this plan, we have discussed it together, and we have no objections." The bearded man murmured, "But this kid directly denied these 3 sides. And the north side, which we didn't consider, was pointed out by him. Don't you think this matter is strange? I don't think it's a coincidence." The bearded man took a deep breath. "Also, when he asked me to write a word, I didn't intend to write it. Then, after I decided to write it, I wanted to squat down and write the word big. But I don't know why, but I didn't want to squat down. In the end, I used my foot to draw the word one. It was not convenient." After listening to Teacher Lu's words, the faces of the brothers gradually became solemn. The taller second brother's expression suddenly changed as he said, "If you want to talk about mystical, then I also have a mystical experience. I've always been a deep sleeper. Dreams have nothing to do with me at all. But last night, I dreamt that my grandfather, who has been dead for more than 30 years, was reunited with me." The faces of the brothers became more and more worried. "Then are we still going south?" The youngest's face changed. The brothers didn't respond to this topic and walked in silence. After walking for a while, the group arrived at the north and south streets in the center of Phoenix City. At this time, a group of 20 to 30 people came in front of them. When one of them saw them, he immediately laughed. "Yo, isn't this Iron Lion? Lu Xiaojiang. Where are you going?" The bearded man said with a dark face, "I'll say it again, my name is Lu Jiansheng." "Ha ha ha ha." The leader of the group laughed loudly. Who knows what he said to the person next to him, but the other side was full of rumbling laughter for a long time. Lu Jiansheng's face became gloomier. Wang Xiaopeng, what are you laughing at? Hearing this, the big man's laughter came to an abrupt stop. His face darkened. My name is Wang Feilong now. Lu Jiansheng, you better remember this. The two of them looked at each other. There was no anger. Instead, they looked at each other and smiled. Originally, these two people's real names were Wang Xiaopeng and Lu Xiaojiang. But after becoming martial artists, they felt that their real names were too rustic, so they changed their names one after another. They changed their names to names that were full of Jianghu flavor. But because of this, they would joke about each other's names every time they met. The two groups of people gathered together. Are you going south too? Why don't we go together? Wang Feilong invited. Lu Jiansheng hesitated for a moment. Looking at the complicated eyes of his brothers, he said, Feilong, we plan to go north today. It's not safe there, so it's not suitable for us to go together. Why don't we form a group and look after each other and go to the desert north together? Wang Feilong smiled and shook his head. Forget it. Us two groups together? There are too many people. We're already late. And with so many people together, even if we find something, it won't be enough to share. I don't want to fight with you guys because of uneven distribution. We're going south. Wang Feilong waved his hand. Come back and let's drink. Lu Jiansheng took a step forward and said in a deep voice, Feilong, it's really dangerous in the south. I've asked a master to calculate it. You come with me to the north. Safer there. What? What did you say? Asked a master to calculate it? Wang Feilong looked at Lu Jiansheng strangely. Suddenly he laughed loudly and slapped his thigh. Ha ha ha, lion, are you still the lion I know? You're making me laugh. Ha ha ha. After laughing for a while, he straightened up and pushed Lu Jiansheng to the side, laughing. Brothers, let's go. He took the lead and flew towards the south of the city. The 20 people behind him smiled and waved. Brother Lu, let's drink. Goodbye, Brother Lion. The group of people was full of vitality. They laughed and joked as they headed towards the south. Each of them was full of youthful vigor. However, the sun was already setting in the west. The setting sun was like blood. Lu Jiansheng's 10 brothers did not say anything for a long time. Boss, what about us? Wang Feilong led his flying dragon team to the south. We won't go. Like he said, everyone has their own position. Once we find something good, it's hard to share it. It's hard to avoid unequal distribution. He doesn't want to fight with me, but I don't want to fight with him either. Lu Jiansheng took a deep breath. We'll go north? Maybe. That kid's calculation is not accurate. One of them said. It's best if he's not accurate. Lu Jiansheng raised his head and looked towards the south. The last person in Wang Feilong's team had also turned a corner, and could no longer be seen. On the other side of the tall buildings in a small square, there was a boiling cauldron of voices. Shocking music boomed and hundreds of people were dancing in the square. The boundless horizon is mine. Laughter, children's cries, and the figures of young men and women chasing each other on the other side. There was a huge billboard, Meng Group, let your dreams come true. Colorful neon lights swayed in the sky above the city. Under the street lights there was an endless stream of people. On the road, vehicles were rushing back and forth like a surging river. Lu Jiansheng was stunned for a moment. Let's go. Let's go. He watched Lu Jiansheng and the others go out. Qin Fengyang looked worried. Is it really dangerous? Swishaoduo's face was also heavy. Yes, it seems so to me. At this moment, Qin Fengyang really didn't doubt his ominous words. He asked, how confident are you? Swishaoduo thought for a moment and said, 80 to 90%. The fact that they met me here is the beginning of their luck. As long as they listen to me, they will naturally be able to turn misfortune into luck. Qin Fengyang sighed softly and looked at the school gate again. He murmured, I hope they're safe. That afternoon, school was over. The moment Swishaoduo walked out of the school gate with the crowd, he instinctively turned his head to look. After a glance, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Something was very wrong, very wrong. At a glance it was still on the side of the road. Near a lamppost on the left, a girl in a pink dress was leaning on it. She was holding a mobile phone in her hand and looking at something with her head down. The corner of her mouth revealed a smile from time to time. A small pink backpack was hanging on her shoulder. At this moment, Swishaoduo felt a little suffocated. Although there were people coming and going around him, Zuo Duo only felt a chill lingering in his body. Something was wrong. This girl must have come with a purpose, and her target must be him. There was a rather remote road to go home. Could this young girl be there to ambush him? It would be fine if she wanted to rob him, but what if she wanted his body? He wanted to see the girl's face, but she kept her head down and he did not have the chance to see. As for other things he could not see. Zuo Duo stood in the crowd at the school gate. His mind was spinning fast. Suddenly, he turned around and rushed back to the school against the crowd like a fish. Why do I have to test whether something is good or bad? Waiting for me means I have bad intentions. I won't go out, okay? I'm a fortune teller, a future master. Avoiding danger is my top priority. Zuo Duo ran to find Qin Fengyang. Teacher, someone is following me. They have been following me for 2 days. Zuo Duo was panting. Qin Fengyang's eyes suddenly sharpened. Who? It's a girl. A girl carrying a small pink bag. She is now waiting for me at the school gate. She has been waiting for me for 2 days. Zuo Duo said in shock. Qin Fengyang's face was full of black lines. Did you do something to her? Zuo Duo was also speechless. Teacher, am I that kind of person? I forgot to ask for votes. Edit it. Also, I saw so many people commenting on 1 chapter a day. This is obviously 2 chapters. 2 chapters, a big chapter. I feel wronged, so please recommend me to comfort me. Chapter 35. Qin Fengyang looked at Zuo Duo carefully. Zuo Duo cooperated and put on a stern and righteous look. Although we haven't been together for more than 2 days, I can responsibly say that you are. Qin Fengyang came to this conclusion after looking at him for a long time. Zuo Duo was speechless. Under Zuo Duo's repeated assurances, Qin Fengyang was still skeptical. He followed Zuo Duo to the school gate. At this time there were not many people and the road seemed empty. It's over there. Zuo Duo pointed. Suddenly he was stunned. Damn! Where is he? There was nothing there. Qin Fengyang looked at Zuo Duo with more and more black lines on his forehead. Great God, Zuo. I've been teaching students for a day and I'm very tired. Especially with students like you, I'm not only physically tired, but even more mentally tired. Can you not trouble me with this kind of game between young boys and girls? No, that's not what I meant. Zuo Duo was a little flustered. Finally, I'll give you one last warning. Qin Fengyang sighed and turned around. Love between a man and a woman is very attractive, and it's also the most difficult thing for someone of your age to resist. But you must remember that you are a warrior. Don't forget your self-encouragement. You are a genius and you have the chance to advance to a very high level. But the prerequisite for advancement is not only talent, but also hard work, unremitting hard work. If a warrior doesn't meet with any misfortune, it's not a problem for him to live for more than 100 years. Qin Fengyang said, when you reach the level of a martial master, it's even easier to live up to 120 or 30 years old. Once you reach the level of an innate master, your basic lifespan starts at 200 years old. If you can go one step further and reach the level of inner core, you can live up to 1,000 years old. After that, that level is too far away for you. But it's not impossible for you to live for thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. It's really unwise for you to involve yourself in trivial matters of love and relationships when you're building your foundation. A normal woman can only live for 70 to 80 years at most. Moreover, her best days can only last for 20 to 30 years at most. Qin Fengyang smiled faintly. Can you imagine 100 years later, you'll still be a handsome man. At most, you'll look like a middle-aged man, while your wife will be old and clumsy, with all her teeth gone. What kind of feeling would that be? Qin Fengyang's smile was filled with the vicissitudes of life. Zuo Duo, when it comes to love you have to be careful. You can't be too careful. Zuo Duo stammered, It's really not about that. I suspect. Qin Fengyang waved his hand. Hurry up and go home. After saying that, he turned around and walked back to the school. Looking at his back, it was actually filled with an indescribable sense of desolation. It's really not about that. Zuo Duo felt that he was at a loss for words. He turned around and saw that the girl had appeared under the street lamp pole again. She was wearing a pink dress, leaning against the pole, looking at her phone, smiling occasionally, and carrying a pink backpack. Zhuo Duo turned around frantically and shouted, "Teacher! Teacher Qin! She's here! She's here again, she's really here!" Ah! Qin Fengyang heard his miserable cries and sighed. He could only move his body and rush over. In a flash, he arrived beside Zhuo Duo and asked patiently, "Where is she?" Zhuo Duo pointed. "There." Suddenly he was stunned. There was no one under the street lamp pole. Where was she? Seeing this, Qin Fengyang finally couldn't suppress the nameless anger in his heart. He pointed a finger at Zhuo Duo, causing him to stagger, and said sternly, "You brat, behave yourself." Then she disappeared. This time she really left. "I've been wronged." Zhuo Duo wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to say something but couldn't. Qin Fengyang went back. Zhuo Duo was really confused by this strange situation. A rather uncomfortable feeling lingered in his heart. If this girl wanted to rob him of his money, it would be fine. He didn't have any money on him at all. But what if this girl wanted to rape him? Should he send a letter to Sister Nian? But if nothing happened, how could he let her laugh at him for being paranoid and frightening him? Just this alone was enough to make her laugh for a few months. Unwilling to give up, Zhuo Duo leaned on the school gate frame and stuck his head out. He found that the girl was still there. Zhuo Duo hurriedly shrunk his head back. "Damn! She's really coming for me." He leaned on the wall to take a look, then shrank back quickly. "Still here." He looked again. "Still here. Head out, head back. Head out, head back." After doing this repeatedly, Zhuo Duo became more and more indecisive. He could feel that this was a real crisis. Then he should inform Sister Nian. This was a foolproof plan. But if I ask Sister Nian for everything, wouldn't I be too useless? Sister Nian wasn't relaxed now. She was at the critical moment of breaking through the bottleneck. "Zhuo Duo, do you have to ask for external help when you're in trouble? Can't you handle anything yourself? Today you still have Sister Nian to rely on and someone to ask for help. In the future, when you're in trouble and have no one to ask for help from, do you have to wait for death?" Zhuo Duo suddenly felt a burst of anger in his heart. He wanted to interrogate his own conscience. All these years, in order to find a way to change your aptitude, the family has spent a lot of money and connections. For you, Sister Nian didn't hesitate to lower herself to pick up the medicine that others deliberately threw away. She didn't have to do this at all. She could have been as arrogant as a phoenix from the beginning to the end, and didn't need to accept anyone's charity. It's because of you that she had to put down her pride. This family has become a burden because of you. How long are you going to be a burden? Are you going to ask Sister Nian to clean up your mess in the future? Zhuo Duo kept asking himself. Rely on myself, walk my own path. Everything depends on myself. It was also on this day that Zhuo Duo, who had always been under the protection of his parents and elder sister, suddenly encountered danger and began his first transformation as a youth. A change in his state of mind. What if there's danger? I can't rely on others for the rest of my life. Face it or get rid of it. Zhuo Duo made up his mind and walked out. However, one hand was still holding the phone hidden in his trouser pocket. He had already found Zhuo Xiaonian's number on the phone. His finger pressed the send button. If there was any danger, he would immediately call her. It was one thing to face the problem bravely and solve it, but when there was an irresistible danger, it was necessary to call for help as soon as possible. Protecting one's own safety was not only for oneself, but also for one's family, parents, and sister. This was not pretentious, this was wisdom. Zhuo Duo strode out of the school gate and found that the girl in pink was still leaning against the lamppost. She was still fiddling with her phone, as though all her attention was on her phone. It was as though she didn't see Zhuo Duo coming out, as though nothing was bothering her. Zhuo Duo made a look of liberation and shouted excitedly, "School is over." Ha 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 ha. Feigning extreme excitement, he ran out of the door and dashed across the road in a flash. When he turned the corner, he carefully looked behind him to make sure that there was no one following him. Then, he ran like a rabbit that had been shot by an arrow to the next corner. Although he seemed to have gotten out of the danger range of the weird girl in pink, Zhuo Duo still did not hesitate. He had already made up his mind. When he turned the corner, he would directly go to the roof and jump directly from the roof to the main road. I don't believe that you would dare to attack me in broad daylight on a busy road. Otherwise, why wouldn't you dare to attack me in front of the school gate? Duo rushed into the corner like a cannonball. The moment he rushed in, he could even hear the whistling of the wind from the corner of his clothes. He had already pushed his movement speed to the limit. However, the moment Duo rushed into the next corner, he saw the pink girl again. His heart suddenly skipped a beat. He had made the first move and used up all his strength. His speed was already as fast as it could be, but he still could not outrun this weird girl in pink. At this moment the girl finally raised her head. When the two of them officially met face to face, Duo was shocked to find that the girl's eyes were gray. When they looked at each other, he felt as if he was looking at a pair of dead eyes. It was really unbearable. You are Duo? The girl's gray eyes stared at Duo, without any liveliness of a living person. Little sister, who are you? Duo's face was amiable. He smiled amiably, revealing his dimples. He tried to make himself look harmless and said leisurely, Little sister, you are so beautiful. You must have something good to say to me. What is your name? How old are you this year? The girl's gray eyes looked at Duo as if she was looking at a dead person. I have been looking for you for a whole day. My wallet was stolen yesterday. You helped me get it back. I am very grateful to you. The girl said very seriously, It is reasonable for me to thank you in person. Thank me in person? Looking at this weird girl who was covered in a dark aura, Duo instinctively felt his scalp tighten. Something is wrong. There is a conspiracy. Alarm bells rang in his heart. The protagonist of this book is Duo. He is different from any other protagonist that I have written before. He is not as perfect as the previous protagonists. He is full of small flaws and tends to go to extremes. Compared to other protagonists, he lives a more realistic life. I want to write a character like this. He is full of flaws. He has all the weaknesses that we have. But every time he experiences something he will think, grow and transform. And we will also grow up with Duo. I hope that the brothers and sisters who read this book will be able to think and make their own judgments or choices when they experience something. No matter whether the choice is wrong or right, it is your own choice after all. Let us accompany Duo on a journey of transformation. We may not become as strong as Duo, but we can become mature and well-rounded. Thank you. So, please recommend me.